Greetings, fellow investigators, and welcome to our video podcast, Into the Darkness, where my friends and I will be delving into the mysteries of Brindlewood Bay RPG. I'm your host, Tom Rayleigh. The scenario is the Great Brindlewood Bake-Off. It was written by Jason Cordova, and it's available from Drive-Thru RPG. Our game master is Julian Arbaugh, and this is a long one-shot. So without any further delay, let's begin our journey into the darkness. Julian.
Okay. Thank you, Tom. So to begin with, I thought it might be good to kind of do just a general overview of the rules, how to play, and that kind of thing. So when you're looking at your character sheet, you've got your style, which kind of just gives an idea about your Maven's basic outlook on life, but you don't have to dress in that kind of fashion. A cozy activity is just something like your favorite pastime or hobby, something that you like to do in retirement. The different abilities that you have, vitality, composure, reason, presence, and sensitivity. Whenever you're trying to do something in the game, you'll roll with the appropriate ability therein. Now, on your character sheet, you also have a Maven's move, and you've all selected one of those. And this is a special move specific to your character. And there's a whole laundry list of things that you can choose from. And so you all have some really interesting ones that hopefully everybody gets to use theirs during the game. Now, the other kind of interesting thing is the Crown of the Queen. Now, the Crown of the Queen is kind of like something that you can, so whenever you kind of roll and you try to do something, but maybe you miss, I will kind of narrate what happens. And by putting on the Crown of the Queen, it gives you the ability to change the outcome of what happened. And the whole purpose of that is really just to kind of make the game a little bit more fun and to give you all more influence on the game itself, actually. The basic moves that you're kind of going to do throughout a game, the meddling move is the mostly of what you're going to do. So when you're searching for a clue, trying to do research, or otherwise gathering information, you'll roll your dice plus whatever your appropriate ability is. The day moves and night moves are more when you're trying to do something risky or face something you fear. That's kind of what those moves are intended to do. The other move that is mostly going to be employed in this game is the last thing that you're going to do, which is the theorize move. So as you go throughout the game, you're going to collect clues as you talk to people and find things. And what you're going to want to do is to, at the end of the game, try to use the clues to create a theory of who you think has perpetrated this crime. The number of clues that you need to use for this particular mystery are 7. And so you would, if you use 7 clues, you would roll 2d6 plus 7 to determine the level of success for your to see how accurate your theory is. And so that's kind of just a very quick overview of the kind of moves and what you're going to be doing for this particular scenario. If we were playing a longer scenario season where we would have multiple sessions, then more things would come into play, but that kind of comprises what a one-shot would use. Does anybody have any questions about the particular moves or your characters in question?
On rolling die, it says if on a hit you find a clue, the keeper will tell you what it is. On a 7 or 9, there's a complication. So what is a hit Does that change depending, like as a DC that scales?
It really isn't. It's based all on your roll. So 2d6 plus whatever your modifier is, you roll your dice, add your modifier, and that's where the chart comes into play.
I think by hit they just mean success.
Yeah.
Right. I was just wondering if that was a fixed value.
It's always a 10 plus.
Yeah.
It's
Always a 10 plus. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I was asking. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't understand your question.
It's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. There's not going to be like an instance where you would need to roll at a higher scale or anything like that. So, yeah. Okay. So if nobody else has any questions, we will just jump right in to the Great Brindlewood Bay Bake Off. It's a beautiful day in Brindlewood Bay. The murder mavens are on the case, solving mysteries while serving up cake. It's a beautiful day in Brindlewood Bay. It's a beautiful day, it's a cozy place, with all the bodies to investigate, searching for clues and mysterious things, catching the murderer and saving the day. And in the dark, the midwives, weaving their conspiracies. Will the maven survive? What would Amanda Delacour do? It's a beautiful day in Brindlewood Bay. The murder mavens are on the case, solving mysteries while serving up cake. And it's a beautiful day in Brindlewood Bay. It's a beautiful day in Brindlewood Bay.
Brindlewood Bay was filmed in front of a live studio audience.
So the most popular television show in the world has come to Brindlewood Bay. And it's going to try to find the town's best baker. Now, there's been a number of qualifying rounds that have happened off camera, and you all have qualified for the televised portion of the bake-off. And so the scene opens up from an aerial shot of all these white tents that are on the property of Sir Aston Courtney and his estate just outside Brindlewood Bay. And the camera will then focus down in on one tent where you all have gathered in sort of like a green room kind of tent. So you all are there, as well as the two other contestants, Melanie and Scott. You also see in this tent are the two primary presenters, Sue and Noel, are here as well. Then you've got producer Heath and cameraman Buck, who are also in this space, and they're setting up to do some interviews with all of the contestants as part of the production of this television show. And there's nice, lovely canapes and drinks and everything is there. And the two people that you don't see in the green room are the judges, which is Paul Riviera and Mary Cherry. Those two are not in the tent at this moment. But we'll begin with the producer. He's Heath. He stands up and he's like, okay, we're ready to do some interviews with the contestants. We want to do sort of an introduction for the show. Who wants to go first?
I didn't mind, dear.
Excellent. So if you come right over here and sit down on this chair for me, ma'am. Okay. But just
Okay.
kind of look that direction.
Mhm.
And now, so if you would, introduce yourself to the world.
I'm Mrs. Doris Lloyd. My husband, my late husband, Martin, was a prominent doctor here up on the coast. I've been a florist all my life, although I'm retired now, and so I can devote my attentions to various other pursuits, including trying to master the very challenging art of baking. I've been in Brindlewood Bay for 12 years. I'm one of the mystery mavens, another hobby of mine, some of the other ladies as well. And we'll see. I think I've invented something in the way of frosting that the judges will find irresistible.
Oh, that's fantastic. So what did you bake that qualified you for Bake Off?
It's an orange poppy chiffon cake, and the thing I think that sets it apart, that makes it somewhat exceptional, is that I derived essences both of the lemon and the poppy separately, so that I could add in a stronger aroma without weighing it down with the bitterness or sourness of the poppy and lemon.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Heath.
Yeah. Now, okay. Who would like to go next?
I'll go next.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Hyacinth Hughes. I've been in Brindlewood Bay a while now. My late husband, Walter, passed away about 7 years ago. My hobby really is gardening, but I've always enjoyed cooking in the kitchen. I'm going to be presenting a caramel chocolate cheesecake with a number of secret ingredients that, unlike Mrs. Lloyd, I'm not going to reveal to you. I'm also one of the mavens, as she said. And that's pretty much all I have to say.
Excellent. So just another question for you. Which judge intimidates you more?
Oh, I don't think I'm intimidated by any of them.
Fantastic.
They're
Well,
just people. They're just people like you and me.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Mrs. Hughes.
Of course.
All right. Who would like to go next?
I'll give it a shot.
All right. Thank you, Mrs. Mayweather. Sorry.
It's quite all right. It gets confused more often than you might think. Well, my name is Violet Mayweather. I used to be a nurse back before I got too old to go walking around hospitals every night. Now I just sit at home. I love collecting buttons and going a little bit and doing a little antique hunting every now and again. I managed to wow the judges with a devil's food cake. Well, with a few extra things thrown in for good measure. And like Hyacinth, I won't be mentioning what those were, at least on camera. I'm also one of the mystery mavens myself, and that's basically all there is to me.
Fantastic. So, why is it important that you win this competition?
I just think it would be fun to finally have a trophy.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Mrs. Mayweather.
Thank you.
All right, who's next?
Oh, I suppose I can go. That's fine.
Excellent. Please have a seat.
Sure. Pulls out of a mug. So, my name is Zelda Jones. I've been living in Brindlewood Bay for, going on 20 years now. My husband Ralph passed away recently, but we had one of the first clothes seamstress and delivery services. He was the local postmaster. I was a local seamstress. And so take that, Amazon, took my idea. And then, yes, I'm also a member of the Mystery Mavens. And frankly, I'm just here to have fun, and because I never would have heard the end of it if I did not join.
Excellent. What did you bake that qualified you for this competition?
Oh, yes. Well, see, I'm a great fan of tea. So what I did was lay down a very thin ginger breading, and then molded it over a teacup, then cooked it with a little brulee torch, flipped that over, and then put in my homemade Earl Grey tea cake inside of that to have a little cake and edible teacup.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you very much. Heath will say, Rosemary, it seems that are you ready to?
Oh, I am always ready. It's so delightful to have so many wonderful guests. You give off such a wonderful energy. I bet you're an air sign, aren't you?
Sure.
Of course, I knew it. Yes, I like to think that in a way my heart has always been here in Brindlewood Bay, but life is a journey, so I don't focus too much on time and these things of how long I've been here. I spent most of my life being what you might call a spiritual guide, helping people get more in touch with their spirituality and with their nature. And my two children, Sandalwood and Nightingale, why they mean so much to me.
Excellent. So who here amongst the competitors do you think is your biggest competition?
Oh, well, I think the biggest competition we all have is against the negative energies that we generate. So,
Excellent. Fantastic. Thank you very much.
of course.
At this point, Heath will call over Melanie, who is one of the other contestants, and she sits down and says, guess my name is Heather, or not Heather, Melanie Blair, and I baked a 4-layer wedding cake to qualify. I'm really looking forward to being in this competition. I've spent most of my life working at the Buttery Buns Bakery that my parents owned, and so I'm very excited to be here. And she seems really kind of frazzled and gets up really quickly because she seems to be very nervous as well. The last contestant to sit down, he introduces his name as Scott Lamb, and he sits down and says, oh, yes, I'm very excited to be here on Bake Off this time. I baked a lemon scones to qualify. They were very nice, perfectly made lemon scones, actually. And the producer will say, do you have any baking tips to give the audience? And Scott will say, yes, it's very important that when you bake a pie crust, that you blind bake it first. And believe you me, Paul likes his bottoms to be neat and firm. And then he'll get up and walk away. Now, as Scott is doing his interview, you kind of notice that you notice that Sue and Noel are kind of having a conversation, having a little bit of a laugh at Scott.
Most likely he's more concerned about which tops that he gets.
Yeah. And but at this point, the producer will say, okay, we've gotten all the introduction shots that we need. If you all are ready, we'll head on over into the main tent and do the first round.
Perfect.
Excellent. And so everyone walks over into the main tent and gets you all positioned in your spots. Sue and Noel are there, as well as this time you actually see the main judges, Paul Riviera and Mary Cherry, do show up at this point. And Sue begins by introducing the scene, and she says, "Greetings, bakers. Welcome to Bake Off. On our first round, it is going to be all about pie. And so you are going to need to bake the absolute best pie you can. And Paul will give you some tips, and he'll say, now make sure that, your bottoms are baked well and that you do a really good job with your pie. And Mary will basically just sort of offer you really just general words of encouragement along on your pathway. So we'll start with Doris. And so what kind of pie would you like to make for your competition?
Well, I want an edge on the others. I think I can use my lemon essence with a blueberry pie, and the tartness will set off the sweetness of the berries. And I'm going to really indulge on the butter for the crust, some real rich Irish cream butter. Yes, blueberry lemon.
Okay. Zelda, how well do you think Doris was able to execute her pie?
Knowing Doris has been sampling and keeping tabs on her essences, her tongue is really well acclimated to them. So I hope that she doesn't accidentally put just too much lemon in it that would put it over the edge for someone who hasn't been eating it quite often.
Okay. Violet, what pie are you making?
I think that Violet probably is not the best baker around. It's not her main hobby or skill. So she'll keep it simple with an apple cinnamon pie.
Apple cinnamon pie? Yeah. Yeah. Rosemary, how well did Violet execute her apple cinnamon pie?
Oh, well, with Violet, she brings a lot of love and positivity to everything that she does, but sometimes that's simply not enough in life.
All right. Hyacinth, what kind of pie have you made for?
I'm working on a special key lime pie. There's secret ingredients in the crust that give it a nice crispness and a nice bite to the limes. I'm of course using proper Mexican limes and not some other version, the little ones. It should be quite tasty and tangy.
Doris, how well did Hyacinth execute her pie?
Well, I would say it was tangy. Honestly, her crust is as flaky as rosemary, so you can't fault her there. But I think that there might be a little more bite. Hyacinth is prone to a little more bite than necessary, I find.
Okay. Rosemary, how well did you execute, or what kind of pie did you make?
Oh, well, you see, I really love rhubarb pie. And the thing that's most wonderful, I think, about my baking is that it's always vegan, and people can never tell.
Hyacinth, how well did Rosemary execute her pie?
People can tell. It's getting by without using animal products is pretty difficult, but there's always some other things that you can use that sort of simulate oil and eggs and milk. And yes, I'm sure there are people who are accustomed to such things. I suppose she did a pretty good job for a new age. It's food for a new age. That's a good thing to say.
Okay. Zelda, what kind of pie did you make for this competition?
Well, since it's getting to be the first day of fall, I have to go with a pumpkin pie, but I'm going to simmer the pumpkin within a chai tea base to really infuse it with all of those flavors, and then put on a homemade cream with cinnamon sprinkle on top. Kind of getting the best of two worlds.
Okay. Since we kind of got an odd number of players, I'll go back to Violet and say, Violet, how well did she execute her pie?
Well, infusing pumpkin with tea, maybe not that bad of an idea. Let's just hope it doesn't get too hot and, well, boil over or anything like that. But other than that, I think she did relatively all right.
Okay. So Noel will put out like the 5-minute to go mark, and you all finish up rushing around, and you take your pies up to the main table there, and you see that Melanie has made this beautiful fruit pie. At least the crust of it is perfectly golden. Scott, however, has copied Hyacinth and has also made a key lime pie as well. So
I'm afraid Scott's out then, because he's not going to be able to match my tang.
Yeah. And so the judges, Paul and Mary, will take slices of everybody's pie, and of course we have the results of your efforts so far. You do see that despite how perfect Melanie's pie looks, unfortunately the fruit didn't quite set, and so it's quite watery, unfortunately. Scott's pie looks well, but it also is a little bit not to the judge's liking. In fact, Paul is quite critical of Scott's key lime pie. Actually, he describes it as not being very good and sad. And in fact, Paul is pretty much kind of a negative Nanny all the time anyway. So Mary tends to be a little bit more, oh, well, you did try. It just looks a bit informal, is kind of the way that she presents it. So of all of those, I think they're going to choose Zelda as the winner of this particular competition. And, Zelda is complimented by Paul, and you receive one of the famous shoulder rubs from Paul. Yeah. And Sue and Noel will congratulate you all. Thank you all very much. And then that's when you hear the producer Heath call, okay, everybody, cut. Excellent. Thank you very much. We're going to take a short break. And then we're going to come back here in probably about 30 minutes and do the second round of baking. So take your all time, and we'll see you back here in 30 minutes. And you see some of the different people kind of wander off. Paul and Mary, they go away, and Sue and Noel, they kind of hang around in the tent, the main tent area. What would you all like to do?
Ladies, congratulations, Zelda.
Yes, well done, dear.
Oh, thank you. I'm just glad it all worked. I was terribly worried that the crust would just be soaked, that I didn't get it strained all in time.
I think it was very clever, very well executed. I don't think that Scott took his loss very well, did you?
Mr. Rivera was quite rude with him, I thought.
It's the TV thing.
Yes, who does he think he is, Simon Cowell?
I think he rather does, actually.
Yes, his aura just screams red to me.
I never hear red myself, darling. I only see it. But I'm not as in touch with my feelings as you are. God
Yes, we
knows.
could work on that, Doris, if you would like.
I have so many things to work on, you know.
Of course, dear.
It's probably a homosexual thing.
Paul's bitchiness or was God's disappointment?
Well,
Or
some
Doris's
sort of internal
refusal to change.
some sort of internal competition between the two of them.
Well, I'm maybe next round he'll get luckier.
Any guess what the next challenge would be?
We've done
Hmm.
pie. Cake would seem to be on the list. And I don't think that they're doing. Are they doing any non-sweet things like?
There must be a
Bread.
savory category.
At that question, Sue will overhear that, and she'll come over and she says, "We're not supposed to tell you in advance what the categories are."
But you're going to.
I'm sensing a but.
Well, I am a champion of all the people that are on Bake Off. I am here to be a supporter for you. Hugs. I love giving hugs. If you need a hug, I am here to help out.
Oh, always.
Oh, and she will just full
Darling,
on.
have you been vaccinated?
Does Rosemary hang on an uncomfortably long time afterwards? Like well after the hug has ended?
That's a rhetorical question, and you know it. You know it.
That's a
All right.
leading question.
Yeah.
All right, Rosemary, that's enough.
And Sue will thank you all, and she'll take off and leave the tent. And
She
at
didn't
this
tell
moment,
us.
I think the
Did she whisper it in
implication
your ear?
was, oh, you wouldn't.
She whispered in your ear, Rosemary.
Oh, if she did, I would make sure to tell you. But no, we were just combining our
Communing.
energies. Yes.
Did you pick up anything telepathically from her? Or
Yes, did her aura scream the next challenge, perhaps?
Did it look like cake?
No,
Or
Sue,
bread.
she seems to have other worries on her mind. It's a big day for her. She seems to be rather closed off at the moment. So
Mm.
no, I didn't get any impression like that this time.
Well,
Hyacinth,
whatever it
you
is.
seem to have abandoned your gloves. They're all lonely here on the ground. Your baking mittens.
I'm sorry, I was a bit
Burritos.
emotional. Oh dear.
It's hard to lift a pinky when you're wearing oven mitts, after all.
Yes, but I knocked all of my things up.
You know, I could probably knit you oven mitts that would have a pinky in case you were interested.
Zelda, you should sell those on Etsy. You'll make a bundle.
Oh, I love the idea.
Oh, my sandalwood talks all the time about Etsy.
Do you think they can make me a site, or is it a MySpace thing?
I think you should talk to your grandson about it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll call Jake for a necessarily too long. I've never figured out this texting thing.
And so as you all are standing in the main tent area, there is a scream that comes out, and a woman comes running in. She is a platinum blonde woman wearing leopard print outfit, and she is in an absolute panic.
It's been an escape from the zoo.
She must have seen herself in a mirror.
But she,
What's wrong,
she comes
dear?
running. My husband, Paul, he is dead. He is dead.
Paul Riviera?
Yes,
As
I found
a
him.
wife?
This is his wife. Yeah.
Surprises me to no end.
Yes.
Well,
That's-
Hyacinth,
that's-
it seems your theory was wrong about him and Scott.
Well, you can't be always 100% right. I could still be right, but there's been a murder, darlings.
Yeah, and as she's screaming, more other people come in back into the main tent. Melanie and Scott are there. Heath, Buck, Sue, and Noel come running in, and I imagine you all go and follow Donna.
Yes, we want to get there
Yes.
before the police come in and
Yes.
destroy all the evidence.
And she leads you over to their trailer, which is just outside the main tent area. And Paul is inside, and he is lying on the ground, on the floor, with flour covering his face, and his hands are tied behind his back.
Ghastly.
Zelda does not think that is flour. Oh dear, you should probably wait outside and don't touch anything.
Are you sure? I mean, is he really dead?
Yes, if you called the police, darling.
Not yet. Should I?
Yes, call 911.
Okay, I will do that. And she pulls out her phone and starts to dial the number.
What do you think? What do you think, ladies?
What are his hands tied with?
If you look at it, it's a brightly colored braided rope.
Something crafty, like something Violet might make.
It does look very, very crafty. It doesn't look
Yes.
like industrial rope, actually. It's
And
more prettier.
Well, it certainly wasn't me.
Oh,
It's-
don't be silly, Violet.
It's barely been, what, 15 minutes since he walked out of the tent? Is that right?
If
It's
that.
about 15, 20 minutes, yeah.
And he's lying on the floor on his side, on his face.
You found him on his back, actually. And so his hands were tied behind his back.
So
And his face is covered in a white powder. Zelda will sort of reach down and like put and lick a little bit and go, oh, it's not cocaine. It's flour.
Is it bread flour? Is it white flour, all-purpose, whole wheat?
Does it taste all purpose? Can I taste some baking soda in there?
Yeah, it does taste like all purpose. You don't actually see like a flour bag around him.
Is there other flour?
anywhere else? Yeah.
Yeah, you do find some flour that is spread around the floor, so it's obvious that it was sort of applied rather hastily.
Does it look as though his face was pressed into a pie pan of flour, or it was sprinkled or rubbed on?
Looks more like it was rubbed on, actually.
I'm going to lean down and I'm going to open his mouth and see if he's got anything in his mouth.
Okay. Yeah, when you open his mouth, you see some chewing gum.
Okay, so it's not like packed full of flour.
No.
He didn't choke on flour.
No.
Is there any sign of how he was killed?
You can see that there's like a few things that are knocked over. So it does look like that there was a bit of a struggle in here, actually.
And what is here? What is the place that we're in?
His trailer.
Yeah, it's his trailer. You kind of see the influence of Donna in the trailer as far as the decor is concerned. So there's some
Leopardy
leopard
things.
Yeah,
Zebra pillows.
it's kind of tacky and
Yeah.
it's gaudy.
A little showy.
Yeah.
I think Violet is going to check Paul's neck to look for any like marks, see if he was
Ligature
possibly
marks.
strangled.
Yeah, you can look at his neck and go ahead and do a meddling roll for me.
All right.
And yeah, that would probably be with reason.
Got it. So I get a +1 to this. And that is an 8.
Okay. So, okay. So one of the things that you do find is, what you don't find is like any kind of strangle marks. But you do notice that his skin is very red around his neck. And you see the evidence of hives.
Oh.
Actually.
Allergic reaction.
Possibly to the chai.
Don't you dare.
Some people are sensitive, dear.
Well, surely he would have known from the get-go. I'm scarcely the first person to use tea. But I'll tell you what I do wonder, that the lad that copied Hyacinth,
The gay
Paul
fellow.
mentioned sure, possibly. The jury's still out. But Paul seemed to react like he couldn't quite identify flavors in that pie. Do you think 15 minutes seems like a short time to develop hives, but if that was from back in the tent?
I'll ask his wife if he had any kind of allergy, a peanut allergy. They should have disclosed that to us before.
They should.
Yes,
Bake-off,
exactly.
certainly. I'll go ask her.
Okay. Yeah, she's outside. She's concluded her call with the police, and she tells you that they're on their way. And no, he did not have any particular peanut
No
allergy.
food allergies.
Yeah.
Did he use any kind of drugs, darling? Recreational?
Well, no, not that I'm aware of. I don't think so.
No marijuana or cocaine?
No.
I mean, he's in show business. We wouldn't be surprised, darling.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, Paul and I, well, we were married, but we lived a little bit separate. We had our own interests and kind of did many of our own things. So I don't really know everything that he was into.
Well, darling, we are, it just so happens that we're the murder-solving mavens. We're very good at solving these sorts of things, and we're going to do our best to solve them. So if we ask you any unusual questions, realize that we're discreet. We're quite discreet. We're not going to talk to anybody. Was your husband a homosexual?
Well, and she kind of looks around a little bit and she says, well, there was a rumor, actually. I don't know. Are you fans of Bake Off at all?
I watch it occasionally. My real thing is gardening, but
Okay.
it doesn't matter, darling. I'm just
some of the on the internet, where the nasty people live sometimes.
yes.
There were rumors about Paul and Scott, actually.
Uh-huh.
Scott unfortunately was a previous contestant on Bake Off.
Was he?
Yes, and the rumors had it is that he and Scott and Paul were in some kind of relationship, actually.
So do you think that Scott would be angry enough that he would murder Paul?
I'm not sure. I really don't know. I don't know the extent of their relationship. I mean, if Paul was into that kind of stuff, I don't care.
It's all right, darling. He was in show business. They're all into that sort of stuff, I suppose. But thank you. We're going to get to the bottom of this.
You're very welcome. I'm going to find something to drink.
Okay, and you need to wait for the police to explain to them what happened. How did you find your husband? You just walked in on him?
Yes, I just walked in on him. I was on another part of the set here, and I just came back to the tent, and there he was. It was terrible.
Yes.
It
All
was
right,
terrible.
darling. Go get something to drink.
Thank you. I certainly will.
I'll go back to the trailer. Well, darlings, it would seem that we may have a very strong clue in the fact that it's very likely that Mr. Rodriguez and Scott, Mr. Lamb, had some sort of a relationship.
Mm.
And that
Past tense, of course.
it could be a jealousy, anger, sort of related sort of thing. We need to find Mr. Lamb and see where he is right now, or where he was.
I mean, the way he spoke during his introduction, he was rather sure of himself. And then the dressing down that Paul gave him over his pie, I could see him being upset. I'd like to snoop around the trailer and see what there is to find.
And maybe afterward, Doris, you could look at Paul's neck here. He seems to have some kind of rash, but I don't know from what. Do you think it could be some sort of plant that could have done this?
Look for needle marks.
Peeling his collar back, do the hives seem to extend, or are they in a sort of narrow area?
Yeah, when you kind of pull open his shirt, you do see that the hives kind of go down his chest.
And there are no obvious marks of violence upon his person. He's not bleeding. He's not bruised. There's no lump.
No, you don't see any obvious signs of violence, cuts, bruises.
Anaphylactic shock seems like a possibility, but you say his wife says he doesn't have any allergies.
No, he doesn't have any allergies that she's aware of. No.
Oh, if only my Martin were alive. He would know what sort of things could be injected or whatnot to imitate that sort of thing.
But if you want to do a roll to do a search around, you can do that. And I'm sorry, Rosemary, I cut you off.
I was going to say, it seems that there doesn't seem to be any signs of a struggle. Do there?
That's
well, you
true.
do actually see some things that are knocked off the table, and then like a chair is turned over. There does seem to be a little bit of signs of a struggle.
I should
at
also
least-
mention that his wife said that he doesn't have any allergies.
But Rosemary, would you perhaps be able to identify what this twine is made of around his wrists? I don't want to touch too much, but this seems something like your area of expertise.
I could take a look.
My search roll was quite lousy.
Oh.
I'm afraid. It was a 5 with my bonus.
Oh, geez.
So I didn't find anything and left my fingerprints on every surface.
Yeah.
The decorative material that's binding his wrist, is it elaborately tied as though he were willing to be tied up, or is it something that was done quickly, like a few ropes around and one across sort of thing?
Do you think it was a sex thing?
That's what I'm thinking.
It does have it's not a typical square knot, actually. It's something that's a little bit more elaborate in its tie.
And the thing itself is some sort of a little braided, like you'd have for a keychain or a...
Yeah, it seems to be sort of elaborately put together with ribbon, different colors of ribbon that overlap, and it makes a very pretty design.
I'm going to
had a
take
hat. Go on.
I was just going to say, wait a second, what year is this? This is modern?
Modern, yeah.
Okay. I'm going to take a picture of it and see if I can find a similar braided sort of trinket online.
Okay. Yeah. You can do like a reason roll to do your internet search for that.
Where was Scott when we heard the scream?
When the scream happened, you all were alone in the main tent.
Okay.
So there wasn't any other contestants or producers or anything in the area.
So it was just us, Noel, and Sue.
Well, Noel had scoffed off somewhere. Sue had hugged Rosemary, and then she went off somewhere.
Okay.
So it was just
the five of us.
you five in the tent when the scream happened. Yeah.
Okay.
I got an 11.
Ooh, nice. You do a successful internet search to find very popular sex toy manufacturer. And you find that it is a particular type of rope for bondage type activities.
It's on this website that's called Adam's Apple, and it's some sort of
Oh dear.
a sex toy thing.
Ooh.
There's some very interesting things on this website. What on earth is that?
Hyacinth, you can look at that later. We do have a murder to solve.
What is shibari? Isn't that a kind of dog?
Let's find out. Want to find out what that is?
All right, let's stay on task, ladies. Let's stay on task.
Oh. Well, maybe 30 years ago. But anyway, sorry, I digress.
Yes.
Rosemary, were you doing something? I forget.
Yes, I'm trying to, based on what happened, if it was a murder, I'm trying to get in tune, perhaps, with the lingering memories and emotions and feelings that pass through here. Perhaps using my Maven move to have a flashback from the killer's perspective.
Yeah. And if I remember correctly, I think you're the one that narrates that, actually. Once per mystery, you can narrate a flashback from the perspective of the unknown killer. Nothing in the flashback is necessarily true, but when you're done, ask the other mavens to define a clue based on what you narrated. So
I'm getting something, ladies. I can see through their eyes. They're approaching the trailer with a great purpose. I can feel the rope, the ribbons in one hand. I can feel the bag of flour in the other, and the door handle. It feels familiar. I open it up. I go inside, and there Paul is, and he turns, and he's surprised, but in the same way as if he was expecting me, as if he knew I was going to come, and he smiles, and I approach, and I tie the ribbons around his hands, and then oh God, I reach into the flower, and I pull something from it, and I start stroking his face, but it wasn't just the flower, and he stops being able to breathe, and he thrashes about, but I knew this was going to happen, and I stand there and I watch until it's over.
Yeah.
And it's gone.
Something hidden in the flower. Very interesting idea.
Perhaps the flower could have been drugged?
Or it had something that would react with something that he had been fed, maybe.
Well, we'll have to keep an eye on Zelda since, well, she tasted the flower.
Something like a 2-stage poison, are you thinking, Hyacinth?
Well, it suddenly dawns on me that, key lime pies are rather complex to get them just right. But even a bad key lime pie usually tastes pretty good. I'm really surprised at Mr. Riviera's extreme criticism of Scott's pie, unless it actually tasted wrong, which might indicate there was something in it. What if he didn't die of any kind of rash or strangulation? What if it's like arsenic? The good old arsenic, that would make you suffocate, wouldn't it? Your lungs would seize up.
That's true, but what about the rash?
Well, maybe he got some grass on him or something. And maybe that might not be relevant at all.
That's true.
And at this point, the producer is over there, Sue and Noel are there, and they're inquiring with you about what's going on, and they're looking at Paul, and they do seem to be rather distressed about the circumstances that have taken place. And the producer says, we've just got to go on with the show. I know it sounds terrible, but
well, I think that you should understand that possibly one of the people here is a murderer.
I mean,
what did you do with the leftovers from all of the food that we just presented?
We usually just throw it away. I mean, it's kind of the normal procedure.
Should probably be analyzed. However, Miss Sherry, was it?
Miss Cherry.
She also ate the food. How is she doing?
She's fine, and she's right over there. She seems fine, as far as I know. None of us are affected. I tried all of your stuff too. I thought everything was pretty good. I don't know.
Well, then maybe that rules that out.
Is there a packet of chewing gum in the trailer?
Yeah, there is.
What sort is it?
It's a standard spearmint chewing gum.
Well, we
You
should
also
have to-
see like there's a little table there, and it's got like a kettle with some different types of teas and things like that on it too.
You're one of the producers, aren't you, darling?
Yes, yeah, I'm the producer on the show.
I know that TV and movie stars have their eccentricities as to what they like and don't like. And is there anything in particular that Mr. Riviera refused? Don't put roses in my place, or something like that.
Oh, let me tell you, Paul was extremely demanding. Actually, he was known as a pompous ass around here, making all sorts of crazy demands and whatnot. Yeah, he did. He had a very particular type of tea he liked. It had to be raw sugar. I mean, everything had to be just so. I mean, some of his demands were getting really outrageous, actually.
Could you possibly write down a list of his odd demands? We're looking for something that he may have been allergic to. His wife says he's not allergic to anything, but perhaps he is, and just...
I don't know if he has any allergies either. I'm not aware of anything like that.
Right, but it may just be something that he says never, ever, ever put, like I say, roses in my... Because he doesn't want to tell you that he's allergic, but he's... Was he on any medication?
Probably. I mean, I've worked with these kind of stars all my life, practically. They all take something. They all have.
Have a look in his trailer and see if we can find any prescriptions.
Yeah.
And I think I'll check his pockets just in case he had something on him that may lead to another clue.
Okay.
And where is Mr. Lamb? Is he still here?
Oh yeah, I saw Mr. Lamb not too long ago. I passed him over in the green room.
Did you notice that his hands were covered with flour by any chance?
I didn't really pay any attention, honestly. I was more worried about editing the footage that we just shot for the first round.
I usually we have to continue. How do we continue with the death of Mr. Rivera?
Is there a replacement judge?
Well, no, there's not a replacement judge, but we can finagle it around and make it work, actually.
How soon do we have to begin? We're trying to figure this all out.
Well, I'd like to wait until the police get here before we do anything. So if you don't mind waiting about another 30 minutes, I think the police should be here in that time, if that's okay with you folks.
Yes. Do you have any members of the crew that are rather strong, big, muscular fellows?
Yeah. Buck, the cameraman, he's a pretty robust guy.
Ladies,
looking for a date, Hyacinth?
Yes, darling.
Always.
I'm thinking that I would like to speak to Mr. Lamb, but I would like some physical protection there. He's maybe a murderer.
I agree.
Somebody that I can fit behind.
Well, you could ask that Buck fellow.
Yes, I realized though when I said it that I'd be endangering a person's life, and I'm not sure that I really want to do that, but maybe we'll wait.
You're thinking of other people, Hyacinth. That is a pleasant surprise. Heath, where do you keep the baking materials when they're not being used in the show?
Well, the main tent is practically a commercial kitchen in all respects. So typically what we'll do is, we know in advance what the round is going to be. And so we typically will stock it with all the necessary items that you might need for that particular round. But we have a small trailer where you might say is a pantry. Yeah, where we keep all this the bigger bulk supplies. Yeah.
So I suspect if you're measuring everything out to get ready for each of the contests, you must keep a pretty close eye on volumes of everything, right? Would you be able to notice maybe if some flour or other substance was missing?
I mean, as far as like inventory is concerned, we really kind of just do it by the bag. We don't really get down to the minor we don't apportion it out and keep detailed track of that. No.
It doesn't take a teaspoon of flour to cover a man's face, after all.
Yeah.
So it'd be a rather meticulous organization that would recognize such a minute quantity.
It's just kind of weird that why would somebody cover his face in flour? It's weird.
It's in a sense, it makes him look a little bit like a clown. Perhaps somebody was mocking him posthumously.
Well, they hit him with something that had flour in it. Was there flour everywhere in the room?
Not necessarily. It didn't look like it was
like he was hit with a big handful of it.
I feel, Hyacinth, that it was the flour was applied in what Paul believed was a moment of intense erotic intimacy, let's say, but it was turned out to be anything but.
Rosemary, are you having one of those warm days?
But Mr. Rivera was fully clothed, wasn't he?
Yes.
I find it very peculiar.
Well, not everybody is in a rush, Hyacinth. But I think it would do us a good if we could find perhaps where this flour bag ended up.
Why do you think there was an... Oh, right, your vision. Yes, darling, of course.
Well, I think I'll give the trailer and, well, Mr. Rivera one more good look over, just in case we
I'll
miss something.
look for drugs, for prescription drugs.
Okay. Yep. Those are both with reason.
Oh, 4.
That is...
that's
a 12.
Ooh, nice. Very nice. So, Violet, as you're looking around the trailer, one of the things that you do find around his tea set is that you do find some little small pellets, and they look rather odd. Not something that you would normally put into tea. You have a suspicion that it might be some kind of poison for
Rats.
vermin. Yeah.
Rat poison.
Yeah.
Well, ladies, I do believe I've found the murder weapon.
Oh.
And Violet will hold up one of the pellets. I believe, Paul, he was poisoned. Rat poison, to be specific, with a cup of tea.
No one drinks tea with gum in their mouth, though. That's the problem with that.
Yes, and most of the dangerous rat poison, strychnine and arsenic, have been banned. Let's check underneath the sink if there's a sink in the trailer.
Yeah, there would
see
be.
If he's got rat poison.
And I'll check inside the kettle.
Or mouse poison.
Yeah. In the you don't. That's kind of like the other clue is that you don't find
anything like
any mouse poison or rat poison within the space. And Heath will tell you that we use rat poison here on the set. We got flour and all sorts of things that mice and other vermin like. So we do keep it in stock.
Heath, do you know if Mr. Rivera had a heart condition? Could those be nitroglycerin pills?
It's possible. He may have been on high cholesterol. Who knows what? Yeah.
Well, the police are going to want to analyze all of this stuff anyway. Well, the very quick answer.
Yeah,
And I'd sure like to solve it before they do.
and
Would
we'll
be
say that
awfully nice.
the inspector shows up at this point. I think this is a good point for the inspector to show up, and you know this inspector. It's Inspector Dimple of the local constabulary, and he sees you all and he goes, "Of course."
Well, it's about time.
Good afternoon, Inspector.
Yes, good afternoon, ladies. I expected to find you here. I've determined that if there is a dead body to be found, then you all are very close by.
Yes, it's very, very funny how the universe seems to constantly be putting us on the same path.
We're just waiting to see how long it takes you to figure out that we're all murderers.
Yes, and that's not funny. Inspector, you'll notice that the rope that he's bound with, it's a kink thing.
Is it now?
Quite.
Fascinating. And he pulls out his little notebook and he writes it down.
Yes, apparently it's something called shibari, which I don't know how Zelda knew about it.
I'm not familiar with that. I'll have to
Japanese
do a search
tying
on that
up
later.
people thing.
Oh, I do recommend it.
Okay. And he says kind of nervously that recommendation. And he goes over and he kind of looks Paul over and he says, yes, he said, looks like you've got quite a very interesting dead body here.
We think that's some sort of rat poison.
Yes, by his teacup.
Excellent. Yes, we can definitely figure that out pretty quickly, I imagine.
But he died with chewing gum in his mouth, which doesn't suggest that he was eating or drinking something at all.
Perhaps he put the gum in his mouth after he drank?
It could have been bitter. Maybe he popped the chewing gum.
It's a
Cleanse
theory.
his palate. I don't know.
It's a theory, Inspector.
Was there any evidence that the tea was in use at the time?
Yeah, it does. It looks like the kettle has some water in it, and there's an empty tea bag.
The teacup would still be warm.
So it was just one teacup.
Yeah. Well, you actually see a set there because his wife is in the trailer too.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, you only do see one teacup that's actually in use.
So I guess you should know, Detective Dimple, that our current primary suspect is probably Mr. Scott Bland.
Oh.
But I think that should be handled discreetly because it might not be.
I certainly appreciate discretion, and he kind of looks around and he motions you all to the side a little bit, and he says, since you all are involved in the production of this show, I would really appreciate your assistance with this. And I think if you continue to play the part that you're playing, you might learn a good bit of information that a person of the police may not.
Well, you should also check out Catwoman. That's his wife. His wife.
One of those. Okay.
Yeah, you can't miss her. She's very flashy thing. Donna's her name.
The leopard print.
Precisely.
Yes.
Yeah, I saw her sobbing in the main tent there. I have to say, I'm a big fan of Bake Off. I'm very sad to see Paul died.
Yes, they don't even have a replacement judge planned as yet.
Oh, I'm sure they have some television magic they can work.
Yes, he was also apparently a rather nasty man. So there's probably other people in the crew that don't like him.
That's entirely possible. I've read very many stories about him. Actually, apparently the primary rumor going on is that there were contract negotiations, from what I've read, being a big fan of the show. And apparently he was threatening to leave if he did not have his contract approved.
You
That's
wanted the
typical
money,
of
I
Star
assume?
Wars, isn't it? Yes.
I just read it on the internet. You know, if it's on the internet, it must be true, of course.
That's what they say.
Well,
Well.
Inspector, we'll continue.
Excellent.
And
I will
inform you of anything.
contact Dr. Stern, the medical examiner, and have him look at the body, and I'll take it from here.
There's
if
a
that's
rash
okay.
on his neck. Had flour on his face, which is unusual.
Yes, that's very, very strange. Do you think it's a sign? Somebody's sending a signal.
Oh, I don't know about that. That's very dramatic. But
It was my
Um,
feeling. It's quite a curious gesture, unless the flower preceded the death. It's also possible that whatever the sexual play was intended, that it's unrelated to his demise. There could be two parties involved after all, or more.
That's
something else I
entirely
just-
possible.
Something else I just thought of. If you're dying of some sort of poison and you're choking to death, wouldn't you spit out your gum?
I would expect so.
That is
Yes.
very true.
Or swallow
swallow
it
it.
accidentally. Yes, quite. No, it's very odd. I think that, Inspector, you should recommend that Dr. Stern look for an injection mark somewhere.
Ah, excellent. Yes, I will certainly I certainly pass all this off to the good doctor. We'll do toxicology tests as well, but unfortunately, those take a little bit of time. So
Of course.
Well, Inspector, we'll keep our eyes open and our ears to the ground.
fantastic. Thank you very much.
Ladies, let's see if we can find Scott and Melanie and see how they're responding to the situation.
Let's get a hold of Buck first. And make sure
yes.
we have somebody strong near
Oh,
us.
An
officer,
won't
yeah.
do. I'd be surprised if he did anything to the group of us, Hyacinth. I mean,
Well,
there are
There are
five of
strength
us,
in
and
numbers.
we can. Oh, he can't silence us all before we start screaming our heads off.
Well, Rosemary, you
I'm
can
gonna
never
try
be
it.
too careful.
Yeah, and Heath
No,
will
I
say
think, I
that.
think that people's caution gets in the way of them living their most deep and authentic life.
you're so very trusting.
Well, with our current company, that deep and fulfilling life may be short-lived.
Heath will say that Buck would be perfectly happy to help you out in any way.
Thank you. Perhaps
Okay.
one of the officers too, just in case something's wrong. I hope the
Oh.
poor boy is not guilty, but love is spent. Rosemary,
Heath,
did you bring your tarot cards with you?
Of course I did, darling.
I don't think she leaves home without them.
Your consultation later, see if something happens.
Heath, does the crew have any sort of general camera running in between things for B-roll and that sort of matter?
Yes, yeah, we have. We try to run as small a crew as possible, and we've set up a number of static cameras around that we can continuously run footage from it, and then we edit it in later on, and it makes the scenes look more dynamic. Yeah, we do have that. Absolutely.
Is it possible then that there might be some indication of who went in and out of the trailer?
It's possible. We don't really have any cameras focused on the trailer. They're more in the primary tent.
Mhm.
But
But
you
if
know,
someone stormed off in the easterly direction or
Yeah.
came back with flowery hands, it might show up on some footage.
certainly could. Yeah. You're welcome to look at it if you want to.
If someone on the crew can show me how these machines work, I think I'd be very interested in having a peek at that.
Yeah, absolutely. I can help you with that. Not a problem.
Excellent.
I'm going to see Sean. So, who's coming with me?
I'll join you,
Violet.
Hyacinth.
Do you mean Scott?
Oh, I'm sorry, Scott. Sean. Who's Sean? Where did I get Sean from?
So Hyacinth and Violet are going to see. Are you going to go to see Buck first, or
Well, yes, we're going to.
Yeah, we're
collect
gonna get Buck
and
first.
then
okay? Zelda and Rosemary, what's your feelings on what you would like to do?
I'm still stumped, quite honestly. And for right now, I'll follow along with Rosemary's visions. I'm a bit skeptical, but she's right more often than not, which is terrifying in its own way.
Yes, I feel like that we need to find. I'm latched on to the image of the something in the flour bag. I want to go snoop around the pantry, or perhaps around where the where the materials are for the baking, and see if any, if a whole bag of flour has mysteriously been thrown away or left somewhere odd, or see if one's just been opened and left.
Okay. So, Zelda, do you want to go with Rosemary? Is that kind of what you're thinking? Okay. Okay.
Zelda, dear, you'll have to tell me more about your experiences with that. What did you call it?
Oh, the shibari? Oh, yes, of course.
Tell me all about it, dear, as we go.
So, we'll start off with Hyacinth and Violet, and you will go see Buck, actually. You find Buck with Donna. And Donna and Buck are together, and you seem to indicate that Buck is trying to console Donna in her grief.
Oh, sorry to interrupt.
Oh, it's okay. What can I help you with?
Well, we were hoping for your muscle.
Oh,
To certainly a man such as you would be willing to protect a couple of little old ladies in their investigation of this horrible, horrible tragedy.
I can do that, I suppose. Do you think you're in danger?
Well, I put my hand on his very muscular arm, and I say, well, darling, we want to go speak with Mr. Lamb, and since he and Mr. Rodriguez seem to be having a falling out. We just want to make sure that we're not attacked, being women and everything.
Yes.
Yeah, I can do that. Yeah.
How well do you know Mr. Lamb?
Well, I've only been on the show for about a year, but unfortunately, I heard that he was on a previous episode of Bake Off, but I wasn't working that particular show. As far as I know, he's kind of he's a really neat kind of guy. He's very particular. I don't really see him as being a very violent kind of person. He just doesn't give off that kind of vibe.
Do you happen to know if Scott won when he was on before?
Oh no, he didn't win. He did not win. Apparently there was some sort of apparently Paul and Scott had kind of an argument about overbaked muffins.
Ah.
Yeah, it actually it actually kind of made it on the show. Actually. Yeah.
Well, maybe later we'll see. Maybe later tonight I can see if I can dig up that episode on the old DVR. Maybe that'll get us some insight into Mr. Lamb.
Yeah. Apparently it was just Scott felt that his muffins were perfect and Paul thought they were overbaked. That's my understanding about how things went. Yeah.
Well, if you wouldn't mind, I'm sorry, Mrs. Rivera, if you wouldn't mind us borrowing Buck for a bit.
And she says, well, no, and she looks kind of up at Buck in a longingly kind of way and says, you won't be gone too long, will you, Buck?
Not too long.
Okay, just be sure to come back, please.
All right. So as we're walking, I'd like to just sort of bluntly say, So, Buck, is that your last name or your first name?
Oh, that's my first name, Buck.
First name.
Yeah.
What's your last name?
Williams.
Williams. Um, how long have you been having an affair with Mr. Vera's wife?
And he kind of like goes red and says, we're not having an affair.
There seems to be some tenderness between the two of you. It's perfectly all right. We're not going to say anything to anyone.
Well, I mean, we kind of for a few months, actually.
Yeah. We suspect that Mr. Rivera and Scott have been doing more or less the same thing.
Well, I've kind of heard that Paul and Donna lead separate lives in a lot of ways.
Modern marriage, modern relationship,
Yeah.
sure.
So,
well, we'd like to speak to Scott. So,
okay,
Yes.
I think they're over in the green room is where they're at. And so,
did you by chance see Mr. Lamb anywhere prior to this?
After the first round, everybody kind of scattered. I think he went to the green room. I really wasn't paying a lot of attention to what you all were doing. I was more focused on my work and listening to Heath yammer on at whatever he likes to yammer on about.
Right.
Of course. Well, here we are. This is the green room.
Yeah. So we'll take a pause right here as you all are approaching the green room, and we'll switch cameras over to Doris. And you wanted to take a look at the footage, if I remember correctly. Okay. Yeah, and Heath will take you into their little production room that they've got set up. And he starts to let you go through all kinds of different things. So if you want to do a roll with reason to see if you can identify anything.
Yahtzee. That's a 13.
Holy cow.
Nice.
Holy cow. So you see quite a bit, actually, from these different takes. One of the things that you do see is you see what appears to be a confrontation between Mary, Paul, and the producer. And the conversation that you hear has to deal with contract negotiations. And both Mary and the producer are a little bit upset with Paul in his particular demands. They think he's being unreasonable and that he needs to kind of back off a little bit.
And how does Heath respond to seeing this footage in front of me? Does it make him nervous or?
Yeah, it kind of does make him a little bit nervous. He's not making eye contact with you. And he says, Paul was a pompous ass. He was really hard to get along with, but damn it, he was the star of the show. So there you go.
It's a pity these TV personalities have to be so unpleasant in reality.
About every single one of them is. It's really unfortunate. The TV persona is just an act in a lot of ways. And sometimes, us producers and whatnot, we kind of help out with that kind of stuff. Actually.
Quite. Mary's easy to work with then?
Well, Mary's not as bad. Mary seems to be a little bit more pleasant, a little bit more easier to deal with. She's been in the business for a long, long time, and done a lot of work. So she's really kind of gotten a little bit more aggravated with Paul and what he's been doing to the show. And it's kind of become a very sore point with all of us. in
Quite.
the background here. Yeah.
Well, that matter's resolved.
Yeah.
What's on this tape here?
I'm sorry. Oh, the next
yeah.
tape.
Yes.
Yeah, and so you see that on that particular tape. Another tape, you see Noel is in there running around, and he's kind of like, looks like he's trying to set up for some practical jokes, actually. So he's being a bit silly, doing some cartwheels, being Noel. Very odd, strange individual Noel is.
Any of his little pranks have to do with flour?
Yeah, it looks like he's kind of like tried to set things up so that when you open the door, it'll fall on you. Yeah, he's mislabeling things. He's just trying to be he's trying to do something that he thinks is funny.
He's a cut up, that Noel.
Yeah. And then you change tapes again, and this is a scene of just the open tent, and you don't really see any activity in it. And so you just kind of sit there and you watch it for a little bit, and you watch it for a little bit. Nothing happens. You fast forward, and then you see Melanie appear, and she walks in to this area, and you see her grab up a bag of flour, and she walks out the way she came.
That doesn't seem fair at all, in addition to perhaps having to do with
Yeah. And you kind of see before she grabs the flour, she kind of pulls some things out of her pockets. You don't really get a good look at it, but and she's gone to her station is where she's at. And she's pulled some things out of her pockets and placed them at her station before she absconds with the flour.
So she adds things to her work area and she disappears with a bag of flour. Does she seem to perhaps add anything to the flour?
She doesn't. She's just kind of got the bag of flour with her, but she's moving with haste. So she's looking around. She obviously doesn't want to be found.
Sneaky
doing
Melanie.
what she's doing.
We all rely on her bake shop. Her baked goods are generally very good.
Yeah.
Sweet, sweet buns. Does that exhaust the recordings?
Yeah, on a 12, that's
13.
Oh, 13. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's pretty high. So I gave you tried to give you several clues with that one.
Excellent. Yes, we have plenty to gossip with the ladies about.
Yeah. And we will switch our direction back to Rosemary and Zelda and your inspection of the pantry.
So anyways, it turns out you can actually crochet with silk yarn and then make your own ropes out of it. So it ended up being a very fulfilling habit for both ways.
It's always nice to find something that can get in touch with the innermost part of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let's see. It seems... Is there anything obviously out of place or missing?
It's very disorganized. It looks like that somebody attempted to have some organization to it, but there's been a lot of movement in and out of this particular space. Yeah. Is there anything that you're particularly looking for, or?
Well, I'm looking for bags of flour basically.
Oh yeah.
If somebody has left like an open bag of flour somewhere or tried to hide it amongst other bags.
Yeah, you can find where the flour is stored at, and you see some large 50-pound bags as well as some smaller 5-pound bags that are sitting there. Yeah.
Are the smaller bags all purpose?
Yes.
Excellent. That was the type of flour it was, wasn't it, Zelda?
Yes, definitely that one. I do wonder, do they have an inventory list or a clipboard or anything around?
Yeah. There's like a wall hook with a clipboard and sitting there. So yeah.
Okay. So going through, I'm just assuming it'll be like 10 bags King Arthur all-purpose flour going in here. Is everything still accounted for, or are some of them missing at this point that are not noted on the clipboard?
Yeah, you can go through the inventory list, and a lot of it seems really normal and mundane, what you would expect to find for a baking show. But you do find that there are some extra extravagant purchases that are on the invoices and things that are in here. Things that seem to be a little bit more things that would be purchased for personal consumption, kind of what I'm trying to get at. Expensive teas.
This must be their poll section of the inventory here. So hopefully these are all of his lists of demands that he would make. There's only enough for one person. There certainly isn't enough to give to multiple people in the show.
Yeah, but it's a list of a lot of different expensive chocolates, different kind of foodstuffs, but it's not like large quantities. It's small quantities at a large price.
Right. Okay. And while Zelda was doing that, is there any of these 5-pound bags of flour that are like open?
Yeah, there are. Would you like to search in them?
I would like to search in them.
Okay, go ahead and do me a reason. Well, you can either do reason or composure, actually, because you're or vitality if you want to do that, whichever is higher.
Yeah, reason and composure are both the same. Okay. So. Okay. That's a 4.
It's a 4. Yeah, you reach into a bag and you pull out a mouse is in your hand.
Hello, friend.
And it squeaks. It's little. It's cute. It's like.
You were not what I was expecting, but given that you're alive in this bag, any rat poison wouldn't be in this bag. So.
Yeah.
Was that the something extra you saw in your vision?
No, I don't know. Were you a witness, my little friend?
Squeak, squeak, squeak.
Could you identify the killer? Or wait, is this not that kind of investigation? Squeak once for yes.
Squeak, squeak.
But I mean, I'll tuck the mouse into a pocket as my friend now. The universe put us into contact, so I must be for a reason.
Okay.
I'll name her Petunia. Petunia the mouse. And
Petunia the mouse.
I will continue to search helplessly in the flour until.
Yeah, and you get flour up your arms.
Yep.
It kind of gets it all over you. So you are fully covered with flour, actually. In this pantry room, is there anything else you'd like to kind of look for or do while you're in here?
I mean, I was about to ask you that I don't have any extra ideas for in here. So I just didn't know if Zelda would search around comparing to the inventory, perhaps finding anything extra.
As far as like if you kind of go along with the inventory list and you can go along, you can find everything that kind of matches up. You are able to see that they don't really do a very good job of tracking items. You know, it'll say that there's 6 sacks of flour and there's actually 5.
Right.
Or
Well, this just seems hopeless.
yeah.
Yes, is there anything on there indicating any sort of fancy, expensive cheese that was one of these personal, extravagant expenditures?
Yeah, there were some expensive cheeses on there, a chartreuse
Okay,
board.
I'll take some of that and give it to Petunia. In my
Okay. Yeah. You can certainly do it. And Petunia is very appreciative of your snack. She laps it up very nicely. But Sue comes over and sees you all in this pantry area and goes, "Are you okay? Do you need anything?"
Yes. Do you have a box where I could put my newfound friend Petunia?
Sue looks at your mouse and she just screams. She's like, "No, I don't have a box. Get that thing away from me."
It's okay, Petunia. It's okay.
Yeah.
Don't let her negativity impact you.
And at this point, we will transition back to the green room as Hyacinth and Violet and their muscle Buck are approaching the green room tent. Inside, you find Melanie, Scott, and Noel are in the green room at this point.
Could you tell us what their composure is as we come in?
Yeah. So you can obviously see that they do seem to be distressed at this particular situation. And they're sitting there kind of munching on the snacks that are there. Melanie seems to be snacking a little bit more heavily than the others. She seems to be probably stress eating somewhat. And Scott has a bottle of Dr. Pepper and he's, drinking it rather quickly.
So Scott's not like bawling his eyes out or anything like that.
He's not bawling his eyes out, but he does appear to be upset. Yeah, at the situation.
Does it look like, when I look at his face, like he has been crying?
Yeah. You can kind of see some redness in the face around the eyes. Yeah.
It's actually something I didn't ask about the body, what the eyes were like. Did it look like they were dilated, like he'd been poisoned, or?
Yeah, it kind of went along with some of the redness in the eyes around the neck.
Okay.
There was something going on there. Yeah.
So we walk in. I'm sorry for the intrusion.
And they both, all three of them, kind of look up at you. And Noel says, "Yeah, it's a real tragic day for Paul."
Would you mind if we asked you a few questions? We've worked with the detective many times before, and he sort of has asked us to, because we're ladies, we're more gentle than having a detective come in here and talk to you. But where were the three of you individually during the 15 or 20 minutes after the show stopped on break?
Noel says, "Well, I just went back to my trailer. That's where I went."
What did you do in your trailer?
Oh, I put the Cure on the stereo and turned the lights off and turned the black lights on.
And you miss, is it Melanie?
Melanie.
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 And
Well,
you
yeah. Well, I first I went to the bathroom, and then I saw Sue and I had a conversation with her for a little bit, and then I came to the green room to get a drink, That's what I was doing.
And Mr. Lamb, how are you feeling?
And he says, well, I'm not feeling great. I'm upset about the whole situation. I'm very sorry that Paul has apparently been murdered by somebody. I don't know who would want to do that. So yeah, I was really thankful to be back on the show and have another opportunity to prove my baking skills and to prove to Paul that I could do it. So I'm upset.
We thought he seemed rather harsh with you.
Yeah, I mean, Paul, he's got very high standards, and he just wants the best out of everybody, I guess.
Well, perhaps our friend Rosemary had an atrocious serving of pie, and yet he didn't seem to react to her as badly as he did towards you. I didn't taste your pie, but
I don't know. I always kind of feel like maybe Paul has favorites, perhaps. I don't know.
If I ask you, I need to ask you a rather indiscreet question. No judgment. What was your relationship with Mr. Rodriguez?
Well, I'd been on the show before, and you may have seen the episode where Paul and I got into an argument over some muffins. Oh, okay. Well,
I've heard of it, but yes.
Yeah, we got into an argument over muffins. He thought my muffins were overbaked. I thought they were not. So, but that was really kind of the extent of our relationship there.
Well, there have been a number of rumors in the papers.
Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff out there about Paul and I, and I don't know where this stuff gets started. I don't know how people can watch an episode where two people have a disagreement and then it suddenly becomes we're lovers.
People have fantasies about people that they see on television. Are you? It makes no difference, but are you in fact a homosexual?
I am, yes, actually.
But you're saying there was no relationship between you and Mr. Rodriguez?
No, we didn't have a relationship. No.
What did you think of Mr. Rodriguez? You seem to be very Violet, please.
Since we've been talking to these three for a little while now, can I see if any of them have any, like a little bit of flour on like their sleeves, their chest, like any remaining little bits that maybe they might have missed?
Yeah, you can see that Melanie herself, she's got a good bit of dusting of flour on her chef's coat, actually, from the previous. And also Scott actually also does have a little bit of flour on himself as well. Because he's got it kind of on his shoulder, his arms. Flour goes everywhere when you're dealing with it. Noel doesn't seem to have any flour on his person.
Our friend Rosemary, she's quite a spiritual person. She believes in all sorts of things. And in my time, I've seen that some of it is kind of true. Would you indulge me and allow me to read your palms?
I mean, I guess.
It's silly, but...
Sure.
Okay. What I'm really looking for is to see if they have flour all under their fingernails, as if you reached into a bag of flour.
Okay.
That's smart.
Yeah, you can do a reason roll with that one.
Okay. And I'll just make up a bunch of BS about reading palms.
Oh, sure.
Uh, 6, 7, 8. I got an 8. That's reason. I should have put my stuff in reason. No, I got an 8.
Oh, you got an 8. Okay.
But maybe Violet's looking too.
Yeah, Violet will help out Hyacinth. She'll be making up stuff too about, oh, these 2 lines mean you'll find love sooner than you may think, my dear.
Okay.
And that's a 9.
That's a 9. Okay. So 8 and 9 are both partial
Mixed
successes.
success.
Yeah, they're partial successes. So the 2 of you are kind of over forgotten his name, gee whiz. Scott. And you're trying to read his palm and everything. And Scott has his phone kind of sitting there. And you see like a notification pop up from a text message. You don't recognize who it's from, but it says something like, has it worked? Or is it working? Yeah. And that's really, you see that there's actually more to the text message than is it working? But Scott sees you looking at it and he grabs the phone up and puts the rest of it in his pocket.
I'm sorry.
Not able to view the whole, but he doesn't say anything. He just picks up his phone and puts it in his pocket.
Well, I can't say that I see anything unusual in your palm. Your lifeline seems to be strong. Your heart line seems to be strong.
So what do you think is going on with Paul and all this?
Well, we don't know. Once we get the pathology report back from the autopsy, which will take probably a day or so to get back, it's quite a mystery as to how the man died. He didn't seem to choke on anything, or he was chewing gum. Did he often chew gum?
I believe he did. I think he kind of chewed gum all the time. I think it was kind of just a general habit of his.
It's one of those things where there's a lot of people that could have had some motivation.
And there was also something strange around his teacup. And I'm going to be looking at all of their reactions when I say this.
Okay. And
to see who gives the biggest reaction to it.
Or the least.
Yeah, that would be...
Or the least.
Yeah, that would be rolling with presence.
Got it.
Yeah. Because you're trying to ascertain something about these people.
Well, good thing that is where I put my 1. And that is a 10.
Nice. Yeah, Melanie kind of looks at her feet when you say that.
All right. Nothing much from Scott or Noel.
As far as like a visual change of their features, no. They just kind of look at you like, well, what do you mean? What was around his teacup?
I may not be 100% right, but at least to me, it looked like rat poison.
Rat poison? Noel says that. You don't put rat poison in your tea. You'd have to make it bitter.
Well, if you're trying to kill somebody.
No, he's quite right. It's really a long shot. I also think you might have to put an awful lot of rat poison into a person's tea.
That is
We'll know
true.
when we get the autopsy.
Yes.
Anyways, we just wanted to know where you are. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. Do you want anything to eat or drink?
Oh, no, thank you.
I might just take a bottle of water.
You're welcome to have anything you'd like.
Yeah, Violet will just grab a bottle of water. Oh, hush, Hyacinth.
So I
seal
I
is
imagine
still
you all are
closed.
converging back on the main tent.
Mhm.
Is that area? Okay. Yeah. And when you come into the main tent, you see that one of the ovens is smoking. Lots of smoke
Oh, dear.
coming out of the tent, out of the oven.
Heath!
And Heath is with Hyacinth and Violet, and he's like, "Oh my god!" And he starts to run for a fire extinguisher.
Where are they? They should be everywhere.
Yeah, and he gets a hold of one and goes over and he's like, "What do I do? Do I just spray the outside of it?"
Here,
No,
give it to me.
turn
here.
it off, first of all.
And he kind of hands it over to Violet to operate.
Yeah, Violet will go turn off the oven first, and then open the door a little bit, and then spray inside with the fire extinguisher.
Okay. Yeah, and when you spray inside the fire, spray inside of it, all the smoke starts to come out, and you start to see paper comes out of the oven.
Someone's been destroying evidence, Rosemary.
What an odd way to do it.
I'll snatch one of the papers up.
Okay.
Careful.
What is it?
Yeah, it's actually
Guessing it's Paul's contract.
My thoughts exactly, Violet.
you start to look at it, and it's kind of strange, but it's like leaves of a cookbook. Like there's recipes on each page, and they're all Paul's recipes that are in this oven.
Somebody is burning Paul's recipes. They seem to killing him just wasn't enough.
Yeah, and
As if maybe his recipes were overbaked.
Oh, that sounds
Darling.
like something that Scott would say.
Yeah.
I wonder if someone doesn't plan to plagiarize his cookbook. And they were destroying the evidence.
But still, such a noticeable way to destroy evidence. This seems like something either they weren't thinking or wanted some poetic scene to happen. I mean, gosh, there's cameras everywhere. This
It's
is
quite dramatic.
Yes.
There are
And
cameras all over the main tent.
I'm sure his recipes are on his computer at home as well.
Yes, this seems personal, emotional even.
Heath, would you be a dear and go look at the camera footage from only a few moments ago?
yeah, I'll go and do that. And he heads off to the production tent.
Who can we eliminate based on where we were and who we were with? It couldn't have been Scott or Melanie or Noel or Buck. They were
Or
all with
Petunia.
us.
Oh, Petunia would never do such a thing. Oh, let me
Who is
this
Petunia?
this little devil's after
Yeah.
my Petunia.
Oh dear God, that's a huge mouse.
No,
The
this
tail
is
It's so
Yeah.
clingy.
It's the cat that's after Petunia. No.
Darling, it's
No, Petunia is my friend that I found in the flower. See?
oh Jesus
Petunia.
Christ.
Rosemary, we've
You
talked to
should-
you about taking a vermin home. It's just not sanitary.
We're in a tent outside. The vermin lives here in the garden. You should put him in the garden.
No,
Well,
the universe sent her to me. She is mine to take care of.
the two people that we didn't see before this happened was Sue and Mary. Perhaps Mary is, well, she wants to become the star of the show faster than we believed.
Who's Melanie Blair? I've got that name written down.
She's
Melanie,
the
she's one of
other
the contestants.
contestants.
Ah, and we haven't
Who-
seen them either, the other contestants. haven't
No,
seen
I
Melanie.
think they were in
You
the
were just
green
you were
room.
just with them.
No, I was with oh, I'm sorry, that is Melanie's name written
Yeah.
down at the bottom.
Hyacinth, you Are you remembering things okay?
I think it's time, ladies, that you're going to need to lock me up in some home.
Have you
do
been
remember who
sampling
you're with?
Mary's
You keep-
cooking sherry?
You keep calling Mr. Riviera all sorts of different last names.
Well, it's one of those
Now,
I suppose-
Hyacinth,
But
don't
Hispanic
start.
names.
Yes.
But speaking of that Madeline girl, when I mentioned the rat poison in
You
Mr.
mean Melanie?
Melanie, yes.
Ladies, everyone right now, take some zinc.
Mm. So when I mentioned that there was some rat poison around Paul's cup, she definitely looked a little bashful. She kept staring down at her feet.
Hmm.
Yes, and Mr. Lamb denies that he has had any kind of relationship. And I
And
don't
you
know, I sort of
Believed
believe
him, Hyacinth?
I do believe him. He seemed quite sincere. Also, he had no reaction when she mentioned the poison as well.
But we
Mhm.
did see for a brief moment there was a message on his phone, and it said, "Is it working?"
Yes, I thought about that, but it could just mean it could be. I mean, his other boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. He did say he was a homosexual.
Mm.
Well, you
It
asked.
could be
I'm
his boyfriend
sure.
just asking if the recipe that he used worked.
Mm.
Checking up on him. I would be checking up on my boyfriend if I was a homosexual.
Mhm.
Perhaps.
Well, as for Melanie and her feet gazing, there's videotape of her stealing a sack of flour from the main tent.
Mm.
And she seemed to be smuggling something into her baking station as well.
Oh, let's go
Also-
look.
Yes.
Oh, fine idea. Oh,
And
which
also-
oven was the manuscript in? Whose oven?
Oh yeah, they are actually at the stations now that I
Mhm.
remember.
Yeah, they're in like the middle of the station.
Yeah, they're in the middle of the stations. They're in Scott's.
Hmm.
Hmm. Well, that could be a bit of a red herring framing him.
Exactly.
I wouldn't put it in my own, certainly. No.
I mean, how many stories have we read where somebody tries desperately to frame somebody else?
Let's check
to mention-
Melanie's station.
Yes, that's a good idea. Also, I hope they give up on the idea of continuing to film today. I mean, obviously now Scott's oven is contaminated. You couldn't bake a meringue in there with all that charred paper smell and so on.
Hmm.
A good question would be
Well,
this too. How well are these ovens heating for us? How long is it taking for the temperature to rise in them? Because as I recall from a certain book, that paper goes into flames at 415 degrees.
It's 51, and he made that number up entirely.
Well, in any case, you could put the paper in there and turn on the oven and leave and be quite a distance away before they started burning.
Yes, I find that parchment paper darkens considerably around pizza temperature, 425, just a little bit below 451. Takes no more than 10 minutes to start to burn, but of course, when it's in a pile like that, it's thicker and more resistant. It's worth thinking
Yes.
about. It could have been in there since before his body was found.
Very true.
Hmm.
Well, I'm sure Heath will come back to us once he has the footage.
Yeah.
Unless, of course, Heath did it. He was having quite an argument with Mary and Paul about Paul's contract. Paul was threatening to send the whole series into the rubbish bin unless he got what he wanted.
Well,
And,
except murdering him would do the same thing, wouldn't it?
oh, I don't know, it's excellent publicity. And you don't
That's
have to
true.
negotiate a contract with a dead man. And by the way, the other presenter, Noel, he's been pranking the shoot all along. doing silly things like putting bags of flour on the top of door jambs and whatnot. So it's always possible that the flower face has nothing to do with the hives, which indeed might have nothing to do with the shirabi, did you say? Which in turn might have nothing to do with, the poisoning or what have you.
We were also thinking, Violet and I, as we were walking along, what if the flower was used to cover something up on Mr. Rodriguez's face?
Riviera.
Riviera. Goodness, honey.
Mr. Riviera's face.
You used to go on a holiday at the Riviera. You've never been on a holiday at Mr. Rodriguez. At any rate, yes, it could have been covering up an allergic reaction or lipstick or who knows what. We should mention it to the inspector. Heaven knows the fellow would be lost without us.
We also, I did forget this completely to tell you, but we did get the distinct and confirmed that Mr. Buck and Donna Lamb, Donna Riviera, whatever, they were also having an affair.
Well,
love
isn't something that should be trapped in these bonds that we call marriage. Love should be controlled.
Your stance on free love is well documented, my dear.
Well documented.
But
public display.
Perhaps Mr. Heath and Mary are in cahoots.
They stand to benefit, perhaps, and they could cover for each other.
So does Mrs. Riviera and Mr.
That's
Buck.
true. I mean, with the death of her husband, she'll probably get most of his revenue. Yes, everything he owned.
Yes, if their relationship was unconventional, it still might have been on its way out. Frankly, were I would tire of her gaudy ways.
Well, she had a rather good body, so maybe it's just a sexual thing. He certainly has a very nice body.
Hyacinth, I saw you take his arm rather aggressively. You really should be mindful.
That was a test, darling. I wanted to see, what he was made of. For all I knew, he could have been a homosexual as well, but he certainly didn't seem to be. I want you to understand that I'm certainly not hung up on people being homosexuals. It's just the evidence is quite clear in front of us. And I was quite right about Mr. Lamb. It's just a fact that we need to incorporate in. But I also believe that he was not having an affair with Mr.
That's what I find remarkable. You usually always assume the most scandalous things about people. So the fact that you take his word for it is very striking.
He was quite forward with me. I mean, he didn't hesitate to tell me.
You were forward with the beefcake. He was forthcoming, Mr. Lamb, with you.
Yes, you were a school teacher, weren't you?
I'm going to take a look at the cooking station of our little flower thief.
Okay.
Yeah. Quite. Let's peek through all Melanie's drawers. Although I will be very disappointed if there's anything in there, because I rely on the buttery buns for my regular croissant.
Yeah. Yeah, you can go through the station without doing a roll because you've been through your stations, and the assumption is that every station should be exactly the same with all the same ingredients and instruments and whatnot. So
we're also allowed to bring a few of our own things from home.
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
They're approved.
Yeah. But she was pulling things out of her pocket, so it probably wouldn't be a big item. But yeah, you are able to identify pretty quickly that she had put into different types of flavorings that you all don't have on your station. So she was probably sneaking different flavors into her baking that you guys didn't find.
We'll get her disqualified if they find out. Although, for that matter, Rosemary, I think your little friend Petunia will get you disqualified if anyone realizes you're carrying a rodent into the
Well,
baking
here's the thing,
competition.
Doris. I mean, everything that they brought we can use, and it seems to very clearly to me they also brought Petunia.
And I'm also very sorry to inform you, Doris, but we found Petunia in the show's flour, so maybe don't sample your own goods as you're baking.
Heavens, that is ghastly.
Rosemary,
Much
perhaps you
so.
could wear a tall little hat, a little chef's hat, and put the mouse in here, and he could teach you how to cook.
Oh, that's
Anyone
like
can.
that one movie.
Yeah, mouse.
Yeah,
and
My
Sue,
grandchildren
whatever was
like it.
called.
Yeah, the little blue mouse. Not as cute as you, Petunia.
We all need to take more zinc, I think.
I misplaced my St. Tenet.
Well, at least now we know she wasn't trying to hide, well, rat poison or anything like that.
Mhm.
So,
Just cheating at the competition, not cheating at life itself.
yes,
But where was she going with all that flour?
Well,
that is true.
indeed.
There is
Where
still an
indeed.
unaccounted bag.
The other
Zelda,
thing
are
that
there
you-
any? Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. The other thing Violet notices is that because you're rifling through the station, is that she's Melanie is missing a chef's knife.
Oh dear, we have a knife unaccounted for.
Now I want protection from that box fellow.
Hmm.
Do you
Ooh,
think that we will still be shooting later today?
that would be my guess?
Problem is
Seems-
that it's the thousands and thousands of dollars have been spent. So yes, they probably will.
Yeah.
Hell of a
Zelda
bad
dear,
taste
I
in
would
this.
watch your back. With you winning the last competition, you might be a little bit higher on our murderers hit list. Than
I swear to
most of
God,
us.
if the hosts call for a sudden death match, then yes, I will be panicking. But
Sudden death.
Hmm.
So at this point, we'll take a short break if you all are okay with that.
Mhm.
And
Yes,
when
darling.
we get back, we will kind of do a little bit of a fast forward to the next baking round.
Excellent.
Cool. Off to the little girl's room.
Mhm.
So remember, kids, be sure to drink all your orange flavored drink and your vitamins before you go to bed every night. And the scene opens back up with Sue and Noel are standing up front, and the contestants are all at their stations. Everybody's kind of awkward because of what's been going on, but Heath is kind of encouraging you all to kind of keep going. We're going to do this one last round, and then we'll be able to finish the show out. So Sue takes over her normal role as presenter, and she says, bakers, in this round, you are all going to make cake. And so I don't get lost like I almost did last time. I'm going to do this in a little more organized fashion. So we'll start with Hyacinth, and she can describe her cake to us.
I'm doing an orange chiffon cake with a secret ingredient that I'm not going to tell you, but it should make it nice and tangy.
Okay. So Zelda, how does the cake come out?
we can smell the scent of fresh citrus that's like permeating the entire room, that this orange chiffon is going to have such a floral or a fruity aroma to it that it certainly, well, if it tastes half as good as it smells, then it should be quite good.
And so we'll just keep with you, and you can describe your cake that you wish to make for the competition.
Okay. See, I do think that Zelda will try and stick with her hobby of knitting and try something a little bit different, but essentially weave together strands of cake to make kind of a basket weaved inside. So essentially pan baking several different flavors, maybe some vanilla, some cream, something, laying them out into small rectangles and weaving them on top of each other. So it should have a very interesting pattern when it is cut open into it. But flavor wise, yes, she's just going to go with typical Earl Grey and vanilla bean.
Okay. Violet, how does it turn out?
I'm not gonna lie, that sounds pretty good. So, and Zelda seems to know what she's doing. So, I think it goes pretty well.
All right. What kind of cake does Violet make for the?
Violet is going to be a little more adventurous now, and she is going to do a take on a strawberry shortcake, but more as an upside down cake. So there's going to be strawberries baked into the top that have been drizzled with a bit of regular chocolate and white chocolate. And then she flips it over and decorates it with a nice little sprinkling of whipped cream, maybe a couple of cherries, just to give it that really sweet, juicy texture.
Okay. Doris, how does her cake turn out?
The violet strawberry shortcake is very violet. It's very sweet. It's very light. It's a little delicate. It might be a shade flimsy. It's an excellent experiment, though. And at least she isn't stealing someone else's idea, like doing a citrus chiffon cake.
And what kind of cake does Doris make for this round?
Well, given that my citrus chiffon idea has been borrowed by my dear friend Hyacinth, who is, after all, practically the queen of Brindlewood Bay, and as old as the queen, I'm going to shift gears entirely. I think it's a salted caramel chocolate cake with alternating levels. Caramelize some sugar and mix that with chocolate, a sprinkling of sea salt in the dark chocolate alternate layers, and frosted very parsimoniously. That's some
Rosemary, how does it turn out?
Well, it's nice to see Doris kind of loosen up and go a little wild with what she deems to be a sprinkling of salt. But I can't falter for, getting into the mood and just letting it go,
And what sort of vegan option, I imagine, does Rosemary create?
I am making a vegan apple cake today.
Okay. And Hyacinth, how does Rosemary's vegan apple cake turn out?
Oh, me?
Yes.
Surprisingly good. It's surprisingly good. Something's wrong.
Did they swap out her nut milks?
I don't know.
Is it almond instead of
It's not a
instead of
hint of
chestnut?
almond. She might win this one. I don't know.
Yep.
I have no idea. Oh, wait, I'm tasting the wrong one. No, no. I'm joking. Three cheers to Rosemary.
Yeah. Melanie's contribution is a lovely coconut cake, and Scott will make a caramel cake for this. Actually, and Mary will come in and she will judge all the cakes, and she compliments Violet on the crumb and the boldness of it. Zelda, she appreciates the work that you put into it, and she compliments all of you on everything. But Rosemary, she says, "I can't believe that this is vegan. Really? Wow."
Yes.
And so she will award you with the win of this particular round. And at the conclusion of the round, the producer thanks you all, and he says, just thanks for pushing through that. We'll greatly appreciate it. And Inspector Dimple is actually standing there, off to the side, waiting to speak with you all. And you see Sue and Noel, they go off in some direction, and Scott and Melanie, they also leave as well. And Heath and Mary and Buck will also kind of leave you all to your space. So, and the inspector comes up and he says, "So, how have things been going?"
Well,
Rosemary had someone snuck some actual food into her baking area, and so she's won.
Oh, that's sounds like a real crime right there. I'll have to get on that one.
Apples and lemons are real food, Doris. There was no sneaking involved.
Well, it is telling that before there was no petunia, and now
there is.
There is.
Oh heavens, it's true. Inspector, we've uncovered any number of anomalous behaviors and facts among the cast and crew. I think the most troubling thing that we're aware of so far is that Melanie, who's a Brindlewood Bay local and friend of ours, was sneaking about, and she absconded with a sack of flour. Given that her family runs a bakery, she can't be short of flour in general. And so I can only but associate that with the material that was smeared on the victim's face.
Yeah, it does seem to be a good conclusion. Now I do know that Melanie has the bakery has been under quite a bit of financial strain.
Buttery buns?
Yes.
But everyone loves buttery buns. We all rely on buttery buns.
Well, not everyone. You see, there's the new bakery that came into town recently. I don't know if you've ever been there or not, but it's one of Paul's chain bakeries.
Oh.
It seems that it's been very popular.
I'm far too loyal to have even thought about such a thing, but that is...
most of us are. I certainly like the buttery buns the best buttery buns there are. But
if you wanted to
Melanie
eliminate competition,
she was very nervous during the very first interviews, more than anybody else.
And
very
now,
nervous.
If Melanie is our prime suspect, suddenly burning that recipe book makes a little more sense.
Oh, how so, Violet?
Well, wouldn't you be a little upset if some fancy baker came into town and stole your business with his baked goods? I mean, very clearly it was an act of anger. I mean, throwing it in an oven here, of all places, is a little risque if if you want to stay hidden.
So you also think it's an emotional response. I wonder if it could be some sort of, as it were, baked red herring, though. Maybe they were trying to disguise some other clue and they used the burned paper to hide it. Because as we have noted, it's such an unavoidably obvious gesture.
Was
that
Mr.
reminds me.
Was Mr. Riviera married?
Donna, the leopard lady.
Oh, yes, of course.
That reminds me, I need to go see Mr. Heath about that footage he might have captured of the person burning the book.
Right. Heath was supposed to get back to us about that.
Yes.
But you're onto something. If there's a connection between Miss Riviera and Melanie, and they were conspiring to get rid of Paul, she would inherit the money, and Melanie would also lose the competition that she had. She would be without any competition in town. I assume that the business would then close.
Yeah,
Paul
well,
would be dead.
it's the opposite potential as well, though, Hyacinth. Perhaps it would be Donna that inherited the chain of bake shops, and so they would be actually opponents.
But she might have promised
Buddy
Melanie
Bakers.
She might have promised Melanie to get rid of this chain here in the bay.
Why burn the book? You think that it might be a red herring? It makes it look like it's a crime of passion.
Well, there was some other evidence, some other scent, perhaps, that would be covered up by the charred paper that filled the main tent.
Or
And
a
let's
piece
not
of paper.
And why does Paul always steal a recipe? Hyacinth, you made a key lime pie. It was excellent. The crust was as flaky as rosemary. I've always said as much.
Yes, you mean
yes.
Scott. Yes.
And now Scott has made a caramel cake when you've made a caramel cake.
Precisely. Why does Scott not ever generate his own ideas?
Let's
No.
get a look at his cooking station. Maybe that might...
But speaking of cooking stations, before I forget,
Where's your mouse?
Petunia's right here. See?
As long as we know where it is.
Mm.
Maybe
It's
give
okay,
it a snack. You know, they have very high metabolisms. I'm sure your pocket's full of... What you were saying?
I was saying, before you insulted my friend, that I was wondering if Melanie complained at all about the missing knife at her station. Or she knew it was missing, didn't bring attention to it.
Well, you might not need a knife during a cake bake.
Cutting up the chilled butter. The chef's knife is very
fruits.
useful. And even, you know, if I open my chef's drawer and there's something missing, I notice. Of course, my memory is not as pockety as some.
There's competition. Why would you risk losing everything that you've worked for and owned in order to just get rid of one competitor? We all agree that the buttered buns place is much better than anything else that we've ever seen.
Yes, but you know,
Unless the mysterious lover this whole time has been Melanie. Maybe Melanie and Paul. And now their love has been tainted by him moving in on her business.
prospect is frankly terrifying. I do think we should check everyone's station, however, and see if there's anything afoot.
Yes,
Pages from the
I
missing
agree.
cookbook, perhaps? If you burnt most of the manuscript, but you kept one recipe for yourself, for example. Let's
Well,
go
I think if we were to
alphabetically.
find, I think if we were to find anything like that, Scott would be the one to have it.
I don't think that Scott has anything to do with buttered buns. Oh, perhaps he does.
Or I was more referring to Doris's theory of if they saved a recipe from the burnt cookbook, since Scott seems to be copying a lot of our things that we make.
It's true.
I wonder, was Melanie in the room whenever you inquired of Squat's relationship with Paul?
Yeah, she was.
Do you think that that may have set up a patsy? If she is the one responsible for everything and knew we were being suspicious towards one, sort of put things in his station, made it look more like a crime of passion, a very sloppy, attention-seeking one at that?
That is
The jilted lover that Scott said he actually was not, that was nothing more than a rumor, we ourselves were.
Well, if people knew that Mr. Lamb was a homosexual, then it would be natural that they might think that it was a lover's spat. And that would implicate Paul, but that might not be the case. That's just Hollywood and television nonsense.
Yes, just wondering if Melanie is indeed the culprit and was looking for a scapegoat. She may be trying to frame Paul and put all eyes on him while doing something else. I'm wondering if maybe things may be missing from Paul's trailer. I think I said Paul, I meant Scott.
We don't know who texted him. Melanie was in the room with us when Scott received a text that said, "Did it work?" I think it might have just been his boyfriend asking if his recipe had worked, but
Didn't you say
Perhaps-
earlier that it was, is it working? I think the tense is important given that it's a text message, so an immediate sort of conversation.
perhaps, you know how I am
maybe it
with
was in
names and
reference
things.
to maybe Scott wanted to have a romantic relationship with Paul and thought that if he could get on the show again and impress him, that such a thing would occur. And so is it working could be in reference to his plan to be on the show again and get closer to Paul that way.
Although in
No.
that case, I think he would have had to have been typing posthumously. Or
Now
to
that I-
no, I don't think that's a possibility.
Now that I'm thinking about it, with the way Paul was tied up, I believe the only person he'd willingly let anyone do that to him, well, would be Dorothy.
Donna,
Donna.
Well, they
We
were
all
See,
need
I'm
more
not the
zinc.
only one that messes up names.
immediately, everyone have some zinc. It's just, we're all, I feel my bones are getting more brittle as we discuss things.
But
Brain fog,
He would give some of the zinc to Petunia.
please. Ladies, another thing that's been troubling me all along. Let's say your romantic or erotic interests run a little on the exotic side and you're into this tsunami or whatever.
Shinsho.
Is a half an hour enough between takes that you would allow yourself to be bound in a trailer that your wife has access to?
Well, I can tell you that my husband, Walter, didn't take very long at all. It was always
But I
rather
assumed
disappointing.
there wasn't any braided ribbon and patterned fabric involved.
He was on his back too. Doesn't that seem like it'd be extremely uncomfortable?
Well, and dressed, and
And it was only his wrists as well. You can get quite a lot of coverage done in only a half hour. That I would have expected a lot more if it was actually that. It's just the intricate weave happened to remind me of it.
If it was sex, wouldn't they have been naked? And does that mean that after murdering him and not untying him, he put his clothes back on?
Well, and additionally, all of the rash was underneath his shirt.
was there something on the clothing?
Like Hercules. His wife put poison on his clothing and it drove Hercules mad. He threw himself off a cliff.
You know, Rosemary, I knew Hyacinth was older than us, but I didn't know that she knew Hercules.
Yes, well, you shouldn't be surprised, Doris. She knows everybody you can find in the museum. She's been around so long.
At any
Between
rate, we
Hercules and the cameraman, she does seem to have a type.
I think we should. Is Inspector Dimple still with us, actually?
Yes, yes, he is.
began this conversation. Inspector Dimple, has any sample been taken from the dead man's clothing?
No, we haven't actually sampled his clothing, no, but this sounds like a very interesting idea. And so I have made some notes and we will definitely look into it. Absolutely.
Are they doing anything on the autopsy yet? Have they taken the body and?
Yeah, I did take possession of the body, and I did deliver it to Dr. Stern, and he said that he would get on it quick. As of right now, I don't believe I have any results from the autopsy.
Very well. I am going to go check Scott's station very quickly.
Okay.
Let's go together. We shouldn't
Yes,
break up the team.
splitting up would not be a very good idea while a murder is about.
Well, Scott's station is just right there.
Yep, you're right there.
Let's all hold hands to make sure we're safe.
Very well.
That's an excellent idea, Isaac.
13 feet.
13 feet.
Actually, I'm sure I have enough ribbon in here that we can make a little rope line.
We can
We
tie
should
ourselves
do that.
together, yes.
Where
just
did you
in
get
case.
that mysteriously multicolored ribbon from, Violet?
Don't.
Maybe we should be investigating you.
Awfully familiar.
Ah, you.
Are you into
ladies
Shin
think-
Show?
No.
Shinshi, or whatever it is called.
Right. Anyway, and Violet will start opening drawers.
What are you looking for? Anything in particular, or kind of what's your search pattern that you're trying to do?
Anything that is a recent addition, so like anything not normally in that, like ours, or anything missing.
Okay. Yeah, you look through and the station looks pretty normal. So you don't see anything that's like addition, and you don't really see anything that should be missing. So everything seems to be normal and accounted for.
Any paper in there?
There's some remnants that are kind of on the floor from the previous fire that happened in there. Yeah. And
Now go.
We should try Melanie's and we should try each other's because something might have been planted as well.
Agree.
So how's Melanie's station look?
Melanie Station looks kind of like, because I imagine you all did not remove any of the extra items that you found.
Nope.
Previously.
We left everything as is.
Everything as is, yeah. So the extra items that were there are there, and so.
Sorry, what was Melanie's cake?
Coconut.
Coconut.
Does it seem like she used any of these things to cheat, or perhaps she was just anxious and brought things in for comfort?
Yeah, it does look like she may have used some additional flavorings and whatnot to kind of enhance her cake.
I'd like to take a closer look at the things that she smuggled in. Maybe sniff even the slightest taste.
Yeah. Go ahead and do a reason roll for that one, I think.
I'm going to roll 12 once tonight, so...
You know.
Whoa! That's a natural 11 with my +1 is 12.
Awesome. Yeah, none of the bottles that she has are marked. They're just nice little vials that she has. And you start to taste them just a little bit or smell them a little bit. And yeah, one of them does have a very, very bitter flavor to it. Very bitter. You would not expect it to be a normal cake kind of flavoring. Yeah, very bitter.
Inspector, Would you bag this or whatever it is you do? There's something, I have no idea why she would bring this into a baking program. It doesn't seem, it's not even alum. Alum is more
Puckery, yes.
puckery. Yeah.
Yeah.
This,
Yeah, absolutely. I've got a couple bags with me, and he'll put it in a bag and notate it appropriately.
Thank you so much, Inspector.
You're very welcome. So I'm just asking the group, how do you all feel about moving into the theorize portion? Do you feel like you could develop a theory at this point, or do you want to continue on?
I feel like before we do that, I was going to say that this situation reminds me of something that happened to Amanda Delacount.
Amanda, yes.
In the novel The Ghostwriter. Do you remember when they went to the Count's manor and they found all those manuscripts thrown into the fireplace?
Quite.
Yes,
there was so
I
much
do
charred
remember
paper,
that.
and yet
And they
in
found that
between
there
the
were
leaves.
there was like love letters of some sort that were burned, but they were using the manuscript to hide them.
Well, there are still some remnants of the burnt up cookbook. There might be something like that still left.
But how did Amanda piece together who had sent those letters? It's been a while since we've read that one.
I don't remember.
There was something about, was there something about a dropped character on the typewriter? The I was below the line. And so they tried to compensate by wedging something like that.
No, but I believe it was the one scrap of the letter they found, the typewriter used to type it. They only knew of one person that had such a flawed typewriter. It's the nephew. Yes. Perhaps if we go dig through the ashes, we might find a scrap of something that was burned along with the
A telling document amongst the borrowed recipes.
If you
Well,
weren't
let's
very
go.
wise, you would take the recipe book, you would take the letter, as you describe it, and jam it in the middle and stick it in the fire. And very likely the center of the book wouldn't burn very much. The outside would burn. It wouldn't burn from the outside. If you were wise, you'd put the letter on top of the book that you were burning so that it goes first. But we can see if the person wasn't very wise. Let's check the book.
So you want to re-examine the charred remains of the book?
We do, yes.
Okay. Yeah, and so you are able to find a letter that is, as Hyacinth described, jammed into the center. That is not a recipe.
Eureka!
Actually. Yeah. And it's an interesting letter. Let me see from my list. Yeah, we'll do it. We'll do this one. This is a nice one. You find a letter from Buckingham Palace, and it is an invitation from the Queen for the cast and the crew to come and visit. And what you notice is that there is a name that is missing from the cast and crew, and it is Mary's name.
Isn't it always the way, ladies? It's the ones we like that disappoint us.
Do you think part of Paul's demands were to get Mary Cherry off the show?
Or that the show was going to drop her in order to meet Paul's demands.
And so to keep
Everyone
herself,
knows Mary Cherry she's a household name because of this show. That without it, what would she be? She doesn't have a franchise. She's poured everything of herself into this series for years.
so to keep herself on, she murdered Paul.
But
That way they'd have no choice.
How, ladies, how? How did she entice him to bind himself or be
She
bound?
didn't.
Rosemary?
Maybe Mary. So we talked about how Donna wouldn't have worked with Melanie, right?
But Donna may have worked with Mary.
No. Donna stands to gain a lot, but if Mary has something to gain from his death, so perhaps did Melanie and her family's business.
They're not in
Mm.
conflict, it's true.
So maybe Mary had Melanie go and got him bound up. Perhaps he enjoys having flings as he travels about, and Melanie left him vulnerable, and perhaps left saying, "I need to go get something." And
then
while
Mary
he was
came in.
already bound, then Mary came to do the evil deed. And so Melanie, while she may not have that intense guilt of the murder herself, she knows that she was an accomplice.
There's something else you should consider. I hope this doesn't throw a wrench in the whole operation. But what if Paul was tied up after he was murdered?
Certainly easier to accomplish an elaborate Shin Baruch.
And it would explain
Gesundheit.
why he's all dressed, and maybe there's no sexual thing here at all, but tie him up as some
Perhaps.
sort of red herring, as you say.
I'd say that. But the beribboned braided rope thing, did the murderer bring it or find it in the trailer?
Got it from Scott because it would implicate Scott.
Or
Somebody's trying to throw us off in every direction.
Or got it from Donna. Perhaps we're not taking into consideration one thing.
Maybe Buck isn't stupid.
Donna came back to the trailer. At some point, she left the trailer and then found her husband dead. What if in the middle of
interesting.
their little romp, she left him tied, only to come back, find him dead, and during that time, Melanie and Mary made their move?
He was still completely dressed.
It was also only half an hour. It was not a full-on escapade. It was
letter.
some sort of...
The letter's interesting. I
Yes.
think that if who were we saying, Mary wanted revenge, because she would have to reason that if she killed Paul, the show might die.
But in the meantime, what in fact happened was that Heath decided to carry on with her as a solo judge.
And I think that she knew that. Doing it in the middle of a peak season, they've already made this investment. The show must go on. And then if she can prove that everything went just as fine without Paul, we finished out this episode. Rosemary won at the next event. That even for a vegan dish, I mean, God forbid. Sorry. But I think that this may be her sort of showing that she is capable of carrying on.
And if she knew, I mean, perhaps the judge had the information that she knew that Scott was going to be returning to the show. She thought that she could frame the murder on Scott himself as a crime of a jaded
Yes,
lover.
because she's aware of all of their histories. And also something that I'm still hung up on is where all of the hives and welts around Paul's neck were coming from. It's almost as if like spraying cologne or aftershave, but he had such meticulous needs and lists that I'm sure as his co-worker for many years, she was very well acquainted with all of his eccentricities and ordering. and might know how to sneak things in. Maybe among these tinctures that, Doris, I hope you don't start feeling itchy and hives on your tongue, but maybe this could all be a great conspiracy.
What do you think, Petunia?
Squeak.
Well,
She's mad at you for stealing her recipe for vegan. My word, girls, there are some very strange, disjointed flower on the face. Man supposedly engaged in sexual activity, but with all of his clothes on. I mean, his fly wasn't even open. Tied behind his back with a Japanese sex ribbon. Flower, mouse,
Chewing gum, poison, hives.
chewing gum, poison, hives.
You know, it's quite insoluble.
a missing knife, a burned cookbook, multiple people and multiple motives for who would want to do Paul in.
Yeah.
But again, it's just Melanie. Melanie was the one who, when you mentioned the perhaps poison tea, she looked, as you described, awfully guilty.
Mm.
Was it just her, or was she an
has
accomplice
a
with
motive
someone?
She has a reason to want to see Paul done away with, and so
Or
does
was
Mary,
it
I
all
would
of
think.
them?
No, dear.
What if it was poison tea and something on the flower and something on the face that it seems everyone had a grudge against him? I mean, for goodness sake, the body wasn't even cold yet, and then the producer was talking about what a massive ass he is. That, you know, there's no love lost and don't speak ill of the dead, but no one seemed too broken up about it.
Have a possible murder on the Orient Express,
Well, that's
where everybody did it.
we read that years and years ago. We're onto more sophisticated pieces of fiction at this point, and the amount of coincidence is outrageous.
But it does feel like we've been handed little clues to keep us.
Well, it is true that everyone here seems to have something, except Noel, the prankster.
Why do you murder a man? You murder a man because you don't love him anymore. You murder a man because you're going to gain something by his death.
That's
You murder a
true.
man because he's cheated on you with someone else.
Hatred, yes.
But
Revenge.
you're all riding on his coattails because he's the one who's making all the money.
But is he actually necessary is the question, I suppose. That's something that Mary Cherry might have asked herself. Is it, in fact, her time to shine? But that doesn't explain how it was done. That's the trouble. I'm not, after all, like dear Rosemary, I'm not one to ask fantods to answer these questions for me. I'd like to know whether there was poison, whether there was a trauma, whether he had a pre-existing condition, and circumstances just suggest that it was a violent death.
Was he asphyxiated? Did he have a heart attack? Did he? Yeah.
Could it
there's
have
so
been
many
a
things.
pillow on his face, and then they floured it, and then they tied his hands?
Well, surely Dr. Stern is finished with his autopsy at this point. Let me put him on speaker. That way we can see it's what has been done. With overlarge buttons. Hello. Yes, Howard. Howard, are you there?
Hello, who is this?
This is Zelda, dear. Have you finished the autopsy? Did you do a talk screen?
Yes, I mean we've done an autopsy. Yes, the toxicology report or the blood tests and things. I've sent that off to the lab. I haven't got the report back yet. But my preliminary report tells me that he had a weak heart and he died from some kind of heart attack, probably.
A heart attack, not asphyxiation, not an allergic reaction? What about the hives, dear?
Well, the hives are very, very confusing, and so I'm not entirely sure what's going on with that. I'm hoping that the toxicology report will help me with with that aspect
Could the-
of it.
Could the small pill have been nitroglycerin?
Oh, heart
Could it be that somebody-
medication.
Could it be that somebody took away his heart medication while he was having a seizure of some sort?
Or overdosed him.
Well, that could happen too. Yes.
There's many possibilities, but at the moment, that's what I'm thinking. He had a heart attack. What caused the heart attack? It could have been natural. It could have been unnatural. That I'm not sure of.
I mean, unnatural. Oh, you mean
Unnatural. Do you think it was ghosts?
Well, I don't personally believe in ghosts. No.
No, just trying out all theories. Okay. Thanks, love. Boop.
Goodbye.
Oh,
Doris, you were with Mr. Heath when he was reviewing the footage with you, correct?
No, it was, yes.
Would you like to accompany me? I want to look and see if we can catch maybe a glimpse of whoever put the book in the oven in the
The
first
book burner.
place.
Yes, let's go and see about the book burner. Quite.
Okay. Yeah, and you all can go and try to locate Heath. And he's not. Yeah, he's not in the where you expect to find him with the audio.
Heath
visual.
is not in the editing suite where he belongs.
Yeah, he's not there.
He did not, as requested, go to try to find.
He doesn't seem to be there. It's been quite a while since he went off to look.
It has been. Are there still employees here in the editing suite?
Buck's there.
Hi, Buck.
Hey.
How long ago did Heath leave? We asked him to find a patch of footage for us.
What he mentioned something about that. What were you looking for again?
Well,
the footage.
footage in the main baking area during the downtime.
When the cookbook was burned after
during
the
that-
second round.
Yeah, let me see if I can find it actually. And Buck starts rummaging around, and he starts running video, and he's like, I don't seem to have that. Actually, it's weird.
when
And
he
Heath was in here before you, correct?
Yeah, he comes and goes. Yeah.
is it possible that he had a bit of tape or the like in his pocket when he took off?
He might have. I'm not sure. wasn't really paying attention actually.
Of course not. How's Donna doing? Is she getting better emotionally?
Well, even though they didn't have a traditional marriage, I think she cared for him.
I'm sure they cared for each other quite a lot, actually. I hope she does well. Where does Heath stay when he's not on site for the shoot? Is he in a hotel nearby, or?
Yeah, we all have a hotel over in Brindlewood. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Do you know his room number offhand? You must have to knock him up on occasion.
Yeah, I know his room number. It's room number 104.
Thanks
Yeah,
very
but-
much, Buck.
I don't think he's left the set though. I think he's still on set. He mentioned something about going to see Mary. I don't know.
Then we'll
Yeah.
check Mary's trailer, see if we can find him there.
Okay.
You've been a champ, Buck. We'll get some of Rosemary's Best to you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I heard it was real good.
It was very, very good.
I think she's using hemp oil. I think that's the thing.
Is that what it is?
I think that's
Does that stuff get you high?
depends.
Oh.
In her case, I think yes.
Okay. I'll have to go get me a big slice then.
No other explanation, because frankly, it's always dry and grainy. We'll talk later.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, you guys can go over to Mary's trailer, and you can see that the lights are on inside. So,
Hi,
Mary.
hello there. What do you do? Oh, Violet's.
Yep.
so Violet's knocking.
Knocking on the door.
Yeah, and Mary will call out, and open the door and say, "Yes, yes. Hello, how are you?"
We're doing quite all right. We're looking for Heath. We were told he came your way.
No, Heath. I haven't seen Heath actually. Well, not since the last round.
To be fair, it has been relatively quiet, considering everything that's happened today.
Is she
Yes.
lying?
You can do a presence roll.
Oh, I'm
For
very
that.
bad at presents. But here
Oh.
we go.
You never know.
Could get
That's
lucky.
an 8.
That's an 8. Yeah. She's kind of hard to read on that regard. Mary's kind of got a very stoic front to her in a normal situation.
British to a fault.
British to a fault. Yeah, she's very stoic, so she's a little bit difficult to kind of read. So you're not real sure if she's telling a lie or if she's telling the truth or what's going on there. So it's really confusing.
Mary, darling, I hope you're not going to spend the entire night alone and unguarded. After all, we're fairly certain there is a murder afoot. Aren't you anxious at all?
Well, I am a little bit anxious, but Paul was kind of one of those individuals that, well, he treated everybody very poorly. And so it's not too surprising that he eventually got knocked off.
So,
No.
Mary, what are your plans for the future? Is this going to cancel the show?
Oh, I don't think it'll cancel the show. No. In show business, hosts die
It's true.
quite frequently, actually,
Sometimes on camera.
Sometimes, yes. Fortunately, it wasn't caught on camera this time. But I feel like that we have enough presenters and hosts that the show will be able to continue on as it is, actually.
Well, perhaps so. Perhaps you have some bright spots in the future.
Curiously,
yes.
on this occasion, Mary, something was caught on camera.
Oh no, what was that?
Oh, let's say a bit of malfeasance that a murderer thought would go hidden. So I'm trying some kind of trick here, obviously.
Okay.
This is a night move, I guess, where I'm challenging someone.
Oh, okay.
You're trying to
Kind of
get her to
threaten
like
her into
crack.
giving something away.
Yeah. So if you
Yeah, I
fail
was-
this, what are you afraid might happen?
I mean, the obvious outcome is profound humiliation because I've insulted somebody who's innocent, but there's probably something more at stake. Maybe her accomplice will attack me. Is that inappropriate?
That could be appropriate. Yeah,
Right.
it could be appropriate.
And it's a reason, I guess. Back.
No, that one would be presence.
Sensitivity?
Presence.
Presence, yeah. Charm, intimidate, that's kind of that role.
Fantastic. I've got a 9 on my dice, so 10 with my 1 presence.
Nice.
Oh, nice. Okay. Yeah, and so Mary kind of gets a little bit nervous when you say that. You kind of get the impression that you've been successful with that, and she says, "Oh, well, do you have what kind of evidence have you uncovered? This seems most serious.
I understand it's quite serious, but of course the inspector is the one who knows. We're just baking. Just a number of ladies baking.
Oh, I see.
But the inspector has seen something that is disturbing.
And you can see that she seems really upset with this, and seems to get really nervous and fidgety. It's very unlike her normal stoic exterior.
It's a pity about London, isn't it?
Well, I mean, how so?
The London plan, the plan to go and see, perform the show in England and have a sort of crown performance. That's all out of the books now, I imagine, with the sudden death.
Oh, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh, well, perhaps.
Well, it's been a long day, Doris. Perhaps we should let poor Mary rest a while.
Of course, we should. Rosemary, you're always very sensitive to the needs of others.
Yes, I suddenly feel very tired. Actually, I feel like I need to have a lie down. So if you don't mind.
Of course. Maybe we'll find Heath by the green room. That's where we found him last.
Yeah. And Mary will excuse herself and quickly close the door.
Not dear.
Doris, you never cease to amaze with that.
I was hoping, Doris, that when I mentioned bright things in the future, that she would accidentally mention getting to go to see the Queen.
I hope I didn't. Yeah, I certainly hope I didn't ruin your line. But no. I think she really has no idea. She was just the one left out.
So many people have so much to gain.
Yes.
Everybody, I'm tending to go towards Zelda and think multiple people might be involved in this whole thing.
Yeah, at this rate, I'm beginning to plan to murder him myself. It seems like no one loses.
What I can't figure out is if you're going to plan a murder and you're going to frame people for the murder, how does flour on the face and tying behind the back and the clothing all being on, wouldn't you actually make it look like a bloody murder?
Maybe this wasn't supposed to be a murder then. If he had a heart attack, maybe this was some sort of attempted comeuppance, trying to, like, each person took their turns humiliating or trying to put him in his place, and he ended up having a heart attack purely on accident.
Couldn't get to his medication.
The rat poisoned by the teacup.
Well, we still don't know if it was rat poison or not, darling.
The pellets were consistent with the appearance of rat poison. There's a superabundance of.
Perhaps let's make one last attempt to find.
Well, we know by Petunia's presence they clearly have a rodent problem. I would assume they'd have some rat poison or mouse poison kept somewhere.
Heath said as much.
And the amount of poison that you would need. Poisoning somebody with rat poison would never get away. You'd never get away with it because the forensic people know exactly what that is. And
well, they would know what caused it, but not who did it.
And perhaps with the poison entering his system, it was enough to give his heart that much of a shock to kill him.
I wish I could have a nap and enjoy a small prophetic dream, but I'm just too het up.
What's your tarot card say?
My tarot Doris, are you the one with tarot? Who has tarot cards? Do I have tarot cards?
You were asked if you had tarot cards, Rosemary.
Oh,
I'm
yes,
not
I do.
surprised that you did.
Yes, I do have tarot cards. My
Yeah.
tarot cards are telling me that we should make one final look around for Heath, and then I think we should enter the theorizing phase of our little adventure.
Yeah, if you wanted to find Heath, you can find him. He's in the main tent.
Heath, have you managed to find that footage yet?
Oh yeah, I looked for the footage, and Buck, he's a good guy, but he had recorded over it.
Why is he recording it? Oh, I guess he's the techie.
Yeah, he's our cameraman. So
Heath, I'm sorry, dear. You're saying that between preparing for shooting the afternoon and the point at which somebody snuck into the main tent, which has several cameras in it, someone stuck a manuscript into an oven, set it alight, and all that footage was erased by Buck before we began to shoot anything?
Not all of it, just the bit that would identify the person. So I've got footage of a person going in.
So either you or Buck have destroyed that evidence.
We didn't do it on purpose. We just in a hurry. I mean, it happens sometimes.
Do you believe any of this?
I believe mistakes happen.
But it does place you in a very awkward position.
It does. I realize that it's a bit of a challenge, but
do you still
Mary react to the news that she wasn't invited to meet the Queen?
Oh, Mary was upset. Mary's a royalist from head to toe, so she was upset about it.
Right. So if she were to claim that she didn't know that she had not been invited, that would be rather damning.
Oh yeah, I mean, she knew about it. We all knew about it. We all got an invitation to Buckingham.
It's very nice
Palace.
paper.
Oh yeah. It's
Watermark on this is something else. Yeah.
I mean, the seal at the top and everything is fantastic.
I think that might have melted, but the paper is excellent.
Damn. Then why burn the fucking letter? Oh, excuse me.
Hyacinth is hyacinthing. Heath, as you're the one in charge, why don't you call everyone in for a conversation about?
Okay, I'll round up the suspects.
If it was an Agatha Christie and you were Hercule Poirot, you would say, "Where all will be revealed." But,
yeah.
I
love those movies. Yeah.
But of course,
burn the letter,
Amanda Delacourt always says, "Attention, everybody," before she does her reveals.
Yeah.
Why burn the letter?
Okay.
She hasn't the charm.
Unless she doesn't know about the letter and he does, and he's lying to us about telling her.
It's all very complicated.
Very complicated.
Why burn the letter? If everybody knows about the letter, why burn the letter?
I miss the problem we had regarding the lighthouse and the caves. It was so much more straightforward. Only I remember it.
Does anybody have any theories?
Now, I will say that about the theorize portion is it's very flexible. And so you've got a lot of different clues. I've got, I think, 16 different clues that you can use. And so you can bend reality a little bit if you need to kind of make your theory work. You don't have to have one suspect be the murderer. You can have multiple if you want to do it that way. So you've got a lot of you actually have a lot of material to work with.
Yeah.
We got a lot of clues.
Yeah. And you've actually postulated a lot of different very good possibilities. So
I think Mary is certainly involved.
Yes. I think our two top suspects are Mary and Melody. Or not Melody.
But Buck and Donna have a great deal to gain from Paul's death.
Mm.
Well, and perhaps, I mean, in that case, maybe Buck erased that footage intentionally.
I think
Right.
Mary.
So
and-
maybe Buck and Donna, Mary, and Melanie.
Well, I wonder
The four of
if
them.
Mary may have roped Buck and Donna in as accessories or accomplices just to help cover her tracks. It certainly seems that Mary and Melody had the most direct grudges against Paul, but then the Buck and Donna were both associated with the show. They had a history together, and they also would stand to benefit if perhaps they just sanded over a few edges here and there.
Heath may be in on it as well.
He certainly had
Everybody-
no love lost. I'm sorry, Doris.
No, I don't know. First of all, Melanie is a Brindlewood Bay resident, and we are a people of harmony and peace. So I'm practically certain that she had nothing to do with it. She's a fellow competitor. Perhaps that's influencing you unconsciously. These outsiders are the murderers, certainly.
Well, what's influencing me is her reaction to hearing of the supposed rat poison by the teacup. She looked awfully guilty when that was mentioned.
Yeah,
She
and
might have-
Doris, we've encountered people from Brindlewood Bay in these situations before, and they were not on the up and up.
No, that was up the coast on the cove.
But that involved Brindlewood Bayans, or whatever we're called.
Bayesians.
Bayesians.
Perhaps if
And in fact, that resident who was not on the up and up, I think, was involved with this very same Buttery Buns Bakery.
Well, the Buttery Buns people have a rich and complex history. It's true.
Now, Doris,
left-
I'm just concerned that you're not letting their buttery croissants butter your own bias. Are you sure you just don't want to give up on your favorite local fixture because their owner may have let their emotions get the best of them?
Well, it is true. We all must consider our personal biases.
Well,
What the
also we
question is what the man died of.
we
did
also have
he
to remember
die?
that. Yes, we don't know how he died. That's going to be the biggest mystery of all until you hear the pathology report.
This is something that you can really bend reality to fit your theory. So if you've got a
Doris
theory,
did it.
yours.
But I mean, so this would be like, well, perhaps there is an agent that tastes very bitter.
Yeah.
That activates with his heart medication. The substance now exists because it's part of the theory.
yeah, it's kind of, if you say it, it's true kind of aspect of it. So
he was subject. Did they put it in the gum? Is that the trap? Did they
You
put
put
it?
one component in the
Maybe,
gum.
maybe, They used the bittering agent in the tea to where he would have to. This man, he's so particular about his taste. They knew this, that he would have to sweeten up his mouth, and so he would go for the gum.
You're talking about Zelda's awful chai business?
I heard that. Thank you.
I'm talking about what Melanie had in that little vial that you tasted. That didn't seem to have anything to do with bacon.
What if you trained a small mouse to murder someone?
Don't involve Petunia in this. She's innocent.
How did you gender her, Rosemary? I mean,
We just
did you
know.
Gotcha.
Oh, please, mice have balls if they're male.
I've never lifted up the tail, I have to admit. Now, we know there was a contract dispute. We know that certain people could not have put the manuscript in the oven.
Mm.
So we have an increasingly finite number of possible suspects, even though everyone wanted the son of a bitch dead.
Yes.
Do you remember the book, "This Two Strangers on a Train"? I'm wondering if you could get the person who committed the murder simply came in, committed the murder, and left, so that there would be no suspect of that person, while the other people were the ones that actually conspired to make it happen.
What is, for example, what's on the IMDb page for Sue's? She seems like the person we've heard the least about.
Yeah. Sue is she used to be a very successful comedian in the UK. And she took the job as a presenter on this show when her career started to kind of go on the downslide.
So
Ladies.
seemingly the show saved her career, it seems.
Yeah. It's been a stable income job for her, actually. Yeah.
So it doesn't seem like she would have any. It doesn't seem she would have any motive to possibly put the show in jeopardy by knocking Paul off.
Yeah, you get rid of Paul because he annoys you and you're a sociopath. You get
Or
rid
you're
of Paul.
deeply
Or you're
angry.
British.
Okay, so maybe a small number of people committed the murder. But as everybody else, such as Heath, such as Buck, when they've come across evidence of it, they know who's done it, but they've decided to help them out because they also wanted him out of the way, and so they, protecting their own, so to speak, they'll let this Scott fellow take the fall.
The show must go on after all.
Framed. The show must go on.
If you're a bad person and you figure out who did it, blackmail is also a very good reason to go along with it. I think the people who stand the most to gain are the most likely ones to have committed the murder. And I think that it's Buck and Paul's wife.
Donna, Hyacinth, does that mean that you're prepared to enter the theorizing stage?
I'm fully cognizant that I'm probably incorrect, but I've got so much confusing things that seems I'd go with the status quo, that it would be the wife and the boyfriend who murdered the husband to gain his inheritance and his business.
But it was But Melanie, just her guilt when at the mention of the potential poisoning.
They could have gotten her to do it.
If
Promised
I
her something.
may, I believe I have an idea of what has happened here. I believe Mary found out that they were going to take her off the show. Whether because of budget reasons or Paul's demands, she was going to be taken off the show. Learning this, she wanted to get rid of him to try and save herself and stay on the show. During this episode, you have a rumored jilted lover of Paul and at least two people not from Brindlewood Bay, a relatively unknown variable in Melanie. So you convince Melanie to poison Paul's tea, maybe flour up his face after Mary has tied him up, or tied them up after he had died. And then, after that, you throw the cookbook into the fire. Make it look like it was Scott the whole time, a jilted crime of passion. Afterwards, Heath and Buck see the footage of her throwing it into the fire, and they decide to cover it up. Because I believe they don't want the show to end. This is how they're getting their money. So they're going to try and cover up the murder because it will keep the show on the air.
Or blackmail them.
Exactly.
Information.
Either way, they win. I do believe our main culprit is Mary, and everyone else, except Scott, is an accessory to the crime.
Good question would be is who set this up? Who set up the whole show so that the right people would be here in the right place at the right time? Would that be Sue?
No, it would be Heath as the producer.
It would be Heath as the producer.
Heath is the
Heath is the
producer.
producer.
So,
And I just had a bit of an epiphany for something I've been fixating on. Is I kept thinking about the rashes, the hives around his neck. But after hearing that he died of a heart attack and not asthma or some sort of airway constriction, Noel has always been the prankster. What if Noel could have just dusted something irritant under Paul's shirt to try and pull some prank on him?
Yes,
and
perhaps.
It could even go ahead.
Yes.
Itching powder.
Zelda, I think
that we've seen a murder with accidents.
Noel set up a prank with this flour and this itching powder. Unbeknownst to Noel, the tea in the room had this bitter agent added to it, so that he will go and try to remove the flavor with the contaminated gum, with what will trigger the heart attack with his medication. But he goes into his room, he gets the flour on his face and the itching powder, and he's frustrated by that. But he doesn't clean himself up. He has his drink of his tea first to try to calm down. He fumbles, he dies. They go in and quickly do the tying of his wrist to try to frame Scott. That explains the flour on the face and the hives that were caused benignly by the prankster.
So,
and he was still
GM,
trying to do.
yeah, I do believe we
GM,
have ourselves a complete theory here.
clarification. Yeah. Does it says here that we do the theorize as long as we've gotten at least half of the correct clues, correct?
Oh yeah, you've got
We've got more, yeah.
lots
Okay.
of you've got lots of clues. Yeah.
So we roll 2 dice. We add the number of clues we use, subtract the mystery's complexity. And if we rolled high enough, then our theory is actually correct. Like we've
Yeah.
come up with the right solution to the mystery.
Yeah.
So who would like to roll?
Yeah, I have you at 8 clues.
All right.
You recovered
So-
quite a lot of material. We're just very uncertain about how to connect it.
Yeah.
So we roll the
I-
dice and then it's 8 plus 8.
It would be 2d6 plus 1.
Plus 8 minus 7
Ah,
is, the complexity and the clue
Right.
ratio.
Yeah.
okay. So who wants to do the
What's the
roll?
theory? I think is the
theory.
final
Noel-
theory is the
okay.
one who rolls. I don't believe that Buck or Donna are involved, for example.
Yes, I don't believe they are either.
I think that
Except
there's
that Bunk erased.
Buck
Or
or
Heath.
Heath could have erased it.
That's true.
Because Buck was confused that the tape was not there, and then he
Right.
said, "Oh yeah, I found it, and it just happened to be erased for these 10 seconds."
So
Yeah.
here we go. Noel sets up his prank.
Mhm.
The hives, the flower, unrelated to the murder.
right.
Just
Eats a
coincidence.
powder in his shirt for laughs.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Totally unrelated to the murder.
Yes.
Good.
So he's the prankster. So that has
Flower
nothing
on
to
the
do
door
with it.
for
Okay.
laughs. 2
For
clues
laughs.
taken care of.
Okay.
Yes.
So
Rosemary's making sense, Zelda. I think we should all take some more zinc just to cover.
I think we had too much of that
Okay.
marijuana
So
pie.
Heath and Mary have been having repeated arguments with Paul, and they both decide he has to go. So they decide, how can we get rid of him and get off scot-free? So they invite Scott back on the show because of the rumors circulating about him.
Perfect. Yes.
They may even have suggested to him that, hey, if you impress him with your baking, he remembers you. He talks about you still.
Perhaps they even said he still has feelings for you
Feelings for
because
you.
they're so heartless.
And then they followed up, is it working perhaps later to stir things
Brilliant. Good.
further. So they lure Scott here with that intention.
As a
They,
patsy.
however, are still intelligent enough they don't want to be the ones who actually deliver the final blow, so to speak. So they get struggling local business owner Melanie to smuggle in something for them, this bitter agent, to deliver the poison in the tea.
We have to leave Melanie out.
What if
What if
Melanie
Melanie-
didn't know what she was pouring? All of her bottles were unlabeled anyways. They
That's
could
why
have
when you
just
told her-
True.
That's
She
why when
may
you
have
told her
been
about the
tricked.
poison, she suddenly realized that she was
Yes.
involved.
Mhm.
Yes. They must have tricked Melanie into poisoning Paul. That's how they got away with it.
And so the poison itself was bitter. And before it killed him, that's why he took the gum. The gum was not poisoned, but he was just trying to counteract that bitterness in his tea, not realizing what it was. And then he perished.
And Melanie watched him have a heart attack. That's why there was the struggle. She had flour on her hands and sat down for tea, and she panicked whenever he started overreacting, put in gum, and tried to do something and touched his face sloppily. That explains why it looks like there were handprints and just things might have been lightly brushed on his face. And then Melody panicked and ran.
And then
Heath
the
and Mary came in.
Japanese
And then see
sexual-
this. So this is where they're trying to blame
Scott.
Scott. They go back into the trailer. Mary does. She binds his hands. She takes the cookbook and the letter that would be incriminating, like the letter that reveals her motive. And she burns those in Scott's oven, again trying to
Frame.
frame Scott. And Heath, knowing this, he knew what the footage was. He gave those tapes to Buck to film with. So then when they got
Swapped them
filmed
out.
over, it was an accident. He couldn't just destroy the tapes, but have Buck
Filmed over the footage.
accidentally film over them. That is my theory.
That's pretty brilliant.
That is a solid
Rosemary,
theory.
this is the first time in the 12 years I've known you that you've made sense for more than 30 consecutive seconds. Well
And
done.
you
Yes.
didn't need
We
any
should all
aura
consider-
mumbo jumbo.
We
And
should all consider eating some of that marijuana pie.
I agree.
with that repeat of the theory, I have you including a lot more clues. And so it would be 2d6 plus 5, actually.
Ooh, that's
There you go,
13
Rosemary.
Go,
clues.
Rosemary.
You put that
Let's see,
together.
a roll of 7 plus 5 is 12.
Nice.
You were absolutely correct. You were absolutely
Woo!
correct.
We did it.
Yep.
I knew the gay boy wasn't guilty.
Yep. And Inspector Dimple is incredibly appreciative of all your work. And he arrests all the persons who should be arrested. And even those who are guilty of conspiracy.
Yeah, I'm sad about Melanie.
Oh,
Yeah.
If
I
I may
love those buttery
ask-
buns.
As Rosemary is unveiling this grand theory in front of everyone all lined up, where instead of contestants sitting on the little stools waiting the judges, it's the table, the turns have tabled. And so Rosemary lays out this grand master plan as Mary gets this fiery glint in her eye and raises this chef's knife out of nowhere, screaming, until she sees Petunia pop out of her pocket and go, "Eek!" And then Mary panics and goes, "Ah!" and falls back onto herself, knocking herself unconscious against the stool as the knife goes flying.
I love it. I love it.
Oh,
Thank you,
I love
Petunia. You just saved my life.
Petunia saves your life. And yeah. And of course, Inspector Dimple, you read in the paper the next day, he takes credit for everything. He is brilliant. He is wonderful.
Oh,
Ah,
that
well.
Dimple.
You can't
And-
win them all.
Yeah.
Now we know why Doris sets Dimple up to be bait most of the time.
Anyway, so that brings us to the conclusion. The credits roll, and we are done. So thank you very much for playing. I hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, that was great.
Yes, that was
Well done,
Wonderful.
everyone. Yes.
Do you all have any questions about anything?
Delightful.
No, it's a very interesting system that's different from a lot of Call of Cthulhu stuff where there just may be some plots here and there and then you piece out the one linear thing. But with it essentially just throwing a clusterfuck at you
Yeah.
and then saying, okay, make your own theory. It was really a different kind of thinking to it because it could have been anything.
Yeah, I really
there an
just
actual-
tried to implicate as many characters as possible, but no, there is no the scenario does not describe who is responsible.
Very interesting. So we get to always get it right in the end. Our hope.
Or I
If
mean,
you
if
roll
you
well.
roll, you
Well-
fail, you get it wrong.
You recall that we did not quite solve everything in Providence. There
Yeah.
were some mysteries that escaped
That's
us
true.
because we rolled under a little bit.
For those listening, we played at Necronomicon. That was our first experience with Julian running a game. So you don't know what we're referencing.
And
Neither do I.
And you never will.
and we were more restrained in this context than we were in that hotel room.
Yes.
Indeed.
Just
Yeah.
just because different, we're not in a room. It feels different.
Is that
Thought
where
it was-
Doris found the marijuana cake?
Oh, trust me, dear. If you want some marijuana, you just come over to my apartment. We'll get you sorted out.
Oh, Rosemary. This also was quite different in that Rosemary was useful. Last time we all met together.
Wow.
A blithering idiot throughout.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
you
right.
had-
You had all the crystals
I had
in the last
yes.
one.
The last time, but I didn't bring any with me for the cooking show. But
You should have brought your crystals and ground them up and put it into the cakes and things.
Our players included Morgan Llewellyn, David Gasway, Lex Hurley, Connor McLean, and myself with Julian Arbaugh as Keeper of the Secrets. We have a Discord server where you can chat with our other members. You can set up private games. You can learn the finer arts of gameplay and game mastery. We provide audio-only versions of our shows, free for you to download from Podbean or iTunes. If you'd like to help support our show, please visit our Patreon account. Just $1 a month helps us a lot. Like, share, and subscribe to our channel and punch the bell icon for updates on our latest shows. And leave us some comments. We enjoy reading them and answering any questions you might have. This is Tom Rayleigh, together with all the members of our gaming club, inviting you to journey with us once again into the darkness for another adventure into the universe of Brindlewood Bay role-playing game. Until next time, good luck and good gaming.
It's a beautiful day in Brindlewood Bay. The murder mavens are on the case, solving mysteries while serving up cake. And it's a beautiful day in Brindlewood Bay. It's a beautiful day